The day before Thanksgiving in 1971, a man identifying himself as Dan Cooper bought a plane ticket from Portland to Seattle. He hijacked the plane, claiming he had a bomb in his briefcase and demanded $200,000 and 4 parachutes. He jumped out of the plane with the money and the bomb somewhere over the Pacific Northwest, never to be seen again. The FBI claims to have investigated over 1,000 people, including dozens of deathbed confessions. In 2016, 45 years after the hijacking, the FBI suspended its investigation of the case. While the FBI is no longer looking for DB Cooper, there is a community of people who are trying to solve the case on their own. Welcome to the Cooper Vortex. Or should I say, welcome to the Vortex Book Club. If you missed part 1 of this series, it's no big deal. Each part can stand alone, but why not follow along? Enjoy the second part of our book review series with my good friend, Nicole Legg. All right, well, thanks again for joining me for part 2 in our book review series.
Thanks for having me.
Max Gunther's D.B. Cooper, What Really Happened, and
Yes.
Richard Tusaw's D.B. Cooper, Dead or Alive, ?
Yes.
So I figured we'll start with one that's very controversial and one that I really love talking about, and that is Max Gunther's D.B. Cooper, What Really Happened. And you have read that before, right?
Yeah, I had read it. I think I finished it not long before the first CooperCon, so not this one here in 2024, but 2023. I read it not long before that, and I hadn't read it since.
I think the last time I read it would have been like 2017, 2018.
It's been a while.
Something like that. It had been a while since I'd read it cover to cover. That one, I always go back and check things because there will be someone that's like, in the Gunther book, it says this.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, I got to take a look at that real quick. But it was very interesting to reread it. Well, let's just start off with the hijacking and get that part out of the way. Every book has to have a hijacking in it.
It's so bad.
And this one was not great.
No. First of all, he wants them to exit from the back, the aft stairs, right? This is the one where he wants them to exit from the back stairs. Let's see, what else?
Captain Scott goes back and talks to Cooper.
Yes. And he doesn't wear loafers. He wears the sensible walking shoes or something.
Yeah, it's a lame description. It's not even a real thing. It's just like the leather upper hiking shoes or something like that.
Oh, it was so bad. No, I don't even know how many facts were actually correct in it. There were more incorrect things than there were correct.
Yes, I would definitely say that about the hijacking, which is interesting because this comes out in 1985, so Himmelsbach's book is 82, I think.
Yep.
Tusaw is 84.
Yep.
I mean, it could be that it was in the process of being published when Tusaw's book came out, so he didn't have that as a reference, because boy, would that have been a much better reference.
They might have actually gotten away with the scam.
But part of me wonders, on the hijacking details, is he putting together what he believes happened and then inserting Dan LeClaire or Paul Cotton or whatever we want to call him? Or is he getting the details from Paul and Clara and then just using those details?
See, that I don't know.
But I think it's a combination of both.
Right.
Which is frustrating because then we'll never know which details are Max Gunther's research and which ones are from Paul and Clara.
And from Clara's letters and the phone calls. I'd love to see. Dave has one of the letters, right?
He has a letter from Clara to Himmelsbach.
Okay.
That Himmelsbach's grandson gave us the info. And I believe some sort of a mild DNA test thing was done, and the DNA on the stamp is male.
After reading this the second time, I would definitely agree with that it would be male. But can't we get Colleen on this? Can we give her the stamp and have her
I vote yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be enough. If she can do what she did with all these other cases, she could do something with that stamp.
It would be great if we could just solve any one small mystery in this case.
Right?
Just
I think
one. Let's
we need a
solve the
win.
Gunther
We
thing.
need
The Gunther thing seems the most solvable.
Yes, we need at least one win because I did catch myself when she was giving all of these details about Paul Cotton, and I'm like writing them down, like, oh, maybe we can like actually find out who this person is. And then I was like, oh wait, no, this is not even a real person, and these details have been changed.
Yeah, because I remember the first time I read it, and she's like describing the area she lives and everything. And I'm like, oh, that could be this area or this area. And then I start looking more closely, and I'm like, it's a totally made up area.
Yeah,
It's not real.
no,
So
I
it's
don't
just
think.
part of that story and that sort of detail. Like, let's pretend it's a absolute real story from Clara. And I want to get this story out there to what was my dead husband or boyfriend's favorite author. And I have to obscure some information to protect
Mhm.
myself. I guess. But then like why do the book? There should be stuff in there where it's like you can check on this. But I
Yes,
guess then it is people would know exactly where she lived. So now I'm back to agreeing with it.
right. Because I mean, she does, she tells like, where he was when he passed away and like a hospital or in a New York hospital in 1982. She does say that he was in what Cape Cod the first time he tried to disappear, like pretend drowned. Was that Cape Cod?
I love that he just casually goes back to his family after that.
Yeah.
The
Like I'm
idea
gonna
that
go out.
I'm on vacation with my family. I go out for a swim in the ocean. My
Yeah.
stuff is on the beach. I never come back. They get back to the hotel room. I'm not there. And then just I show up, what is it, 4 days later, or whatever he
Yeah. Like,
says? Like,
hey.
yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, well, and he had planned everything. He had clothes, he had everything planned out. And then he just came back. And it's one of those that you're like, when they try to get away, you're watching a movie and you're like, if they go back one more time, they deserve what they get. Like he kept leaving and then coming back. And then he would plan to leave and then he would come back.
And I made a note on that specifically because over and over in this, he's going to commit some small low-level crime and he chickens out.
Yes.
Over and over and over. But the one crime he doesn't chicken out on is jumping out of a 727 with
Yes.
$200,000 ransom. But he was
Yep.
scared to spend one of the 20s at a hardware store.
Yeah. Or even steal the wallet, even steal Paul Cotton's wallet. He sat there for a while and debated it. Like, yeah, I think a real Cooper would not have a problem swiping those things or spending a 20.
I agree with you on that.
They're a criminal, not not a runaway husband trying to find a new life.
Do you think that Max Gunther truly believed this story?
I don't know. I think it would depend on knowing how much information he had and how much he made up. I think if we could figure out, like you said, what he had versus what he filled the blanks in, then I guess we could answer better if I think he believed it or not. So he might have believed it. I mean, he wrote a book about it, unless he was just looking for extra money and knew it might sell.
Well, I don't think it's sold very well.
For us, it's sold.
Right, yeah. Yeah, we're all aware of it, but
Right. The average person, I guess not. I guess he was just a magazine writer for a while. So maybe then he does. Maybe looking back, he does believe that it's real or that there's something to it because they contacted three different people with this story, right?
and he
Like the
presents it to the
editor.
FBI.
Yeah. April of 82. April of 82, she calls. And then when is it? December of 82, he gives Himmelsbach the information. So, I mean, maybe he did think there was something to it. Evidently, she called multiple times and he called in the beginning, whoever that is.
It's something, it's not the first time I've read this book. I've discussed it ad nauseum. And reading it again, it was something I really had on my mind going through the book. Like, does he believe this? Because that's
That's
the thing that's always been debated is like, did he fall for this? Was he
mhm.
swindled? Was he in on the con? Was the whole thing completely made up by him? Where was
That's
he really on that?
I
And
hadn't
I
thought about him being in
struggle
on
with
the
it.
con. That's a good one. Him if he was in on the con. That's see, when I was reading it, I was trying to figure out who Clara was. That's when I read it the second time. I was trying to figure out who's Clara and how do we know Clara already? And is Clara a man or a woman? I think was what I was
I
trying
was
to figure out
definitely
this time.
reading it with, Clara can be Barb in mind.
Yes, absolutely.
But even then, rereading it, I don't think that's the story Barb would have told.
You think?
I don't know.
Well, I
But I
mean,
figure Barb would have made him more of like a Billy Badass.
true. But she did try to have like this so-called love story. So maybe it was just something she was missing in her life that she wanted to find love in her own way.
She was definitely looking for love because, I mean, she finds a man in her woodshed, and according to the book, 2 days later, they're lovers.
Yeah, they Netflix and chill 2 days later. But
He must be a charming fellow. I just, that is so crazy that you find a
no,
fugitive in your backyard and
no,
2 days later you're sleeping with him.
no. We talked, like I said, I have not seen a lot of movies, but seen a lot of horror movies. And that is the beginning of a horror movie. You do
I think
not
it's,
help injured men. You end up at the bottom of a pit being told it puts the lotion on the skin or you get the hose again. No, you don't help injured men. You walk away.
I thought of it more along the lines of like a romance novel aimed at women. Like, oh, and then this handsome daredevil fugitive lands in my backyard when I was just
Oh,
thinking about how lonely I was
how,
on
lo-
this bearskin rug.
how
Like,
lonely and naive you are. Any sensible woman would run the other way. Like every time I read this, I'm like, this is not a love story. This is a horror story. This is not going to end well. So there's no way a woman could have written this at all.
well, they lived happily ever after.
Supposedly, I mean, she takes him to the doctor, and yeah, I mean, how many years are they together?
Oh,
Um,
he died in 82.
82. So
So, yeah, they got
11
a solid
years.
11 years together on the
Yeah.
run.
Yeah. Mixed in with seeing his daughter every now and then.
I did have a problem with them going to the doctor for his broken leg nearby
Hmm. Hmm.
because I guarantee you the FBI was at every place the next day, and then a week later, hey, any weird broken leg or
Yeah,
ankle, any weird injuries on middle-aged guys?
absolutely. No, and reading it again, it can't be real. It can't be real. Or maybe the timeline is a bit adjusted. Like maybe didn't quite go to the doctor right at that time. I mean, I don't know. How long can you wait before you go to a doctor with a
Because
broken?
Woodland would have had maybe one or two small doctor office kind of things, just like
Mhm.
family practice. And then maybe there would have been one in like Yakult or Amboy.
Okay.
But that's also, you're going to a small town little doctor office. If I really don't want to be noticed, I'm going to the hospital in Portland
Right.
where there's going to be 9 other people that have broken legs just that day.
Yeah. Well, once again, horror movie. Who knows? We don't know what happened to the doctor that saw him.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Never seen or heard from again. Or it
Exactly.
was that crazy Washougal doctor. That's who they
Yeah.
went and saw.
Right.
What was that guy's name? Um, Gosh, I can't remember that. Had all the surveillance and printing equipment in his garage.
Roman.
Roman, that's right. Nice job, Nicole. Nice job, Dr. Roman.
Roman. So
Yes.
maybe they did go see Dr. Roman. Maybe Clara was Dr. Roman's wife.
Oh, except she'd be dead.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, Dr. Roman went on a killing spree there for
That's
a minute.
right. Okay. All right. But yeah, we don't know what happened to the doctor. So maybe they did go to a little small town. They could have gone to a vet. They could have gone to a vet's office and get bandaged up. They don't
Yeah.
actually need a doctor. They just need someone who knows medical. I mean, who knows? But no, I mean, maybe they did go and, maybe multiple people disappeared that day.
Oh, and missed in my notes, during his skyjacking, he had an altimeter on his wrist that he was going to look at with a
Yes.
flashlight.
Yes. Yes. And we already know he had nothing on his wrist because he kept asking what time it was. But yeah, and they talk about um the which I did find it interesting that Jean Cotton is the sheriff. And she, I guess, makes up the name Paul Cotton to protect his identity.
Right, to protect his fake identity.
Yes. And see, you wonder if she is local to the area. But that's too distinct of a name, right? Like it's not Jones. Like it's not Paul Jones.
Or
Who
Cooper.
also, right. It's not like his name was Paul Jones and the sheriff was Danny Jones or something.
Yeah, and he does point out, like, just a coincidence here.
Yeah.
She chose that name. I didn't. And then it just happened to be the name of the
The
sheriff.
same. Yeah. No, but it does. It goes on. If Clara is real, I do feel bad for her. She's stuck at home, doesn't really get to see the world. So, maybe it was written by a woman who's just naive and is okay finding a injured felon in her garage, in her shed.
But even like if it's a practical joke, I'm pulling this practical joke on this author. What am I getting out of this by pretending to be Clara and he writes this book? Is it just that I'm gonna laugh alone in my basement? Ha 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 ha. Look what I made this guy
It's
do.
true. But what if Paul Cotton was the only scammer? Like, what if he scammed her in a way?
Oh, I don't think I've thought about that. Just
And
like a
he
fake
just,
secret agent kind of a thing.
yeah, like, Walter
Yeah.
Recca. Maybe that's what Recca was. No, but like, what if he was just out and got injured? Because his outfit did not match anything that Cooper was wearing when they described it. So maybe he was just out, got injured, and then was kind of like, well, that sounds pretty cool. Everyone seems to like this Cooper guy. Maybe I'll, score some points if she thinks I'm him. So maybe he's the con and had conned her the entire time.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that. It,
Yeah.
it could be like they didn't even meet on that day. It's just a lie that he has told
Mm-hmm.
her and she eventually believes it. Like that
Mm-hmm.
lady that mailed Brad Pitt all that money recently in the news, where
No, I
he
didn't.
some guy like catfished this woman saying he was Brad Pitt and was in the hospital, and she mailed this guy $800,000
Oh,
or mailed Brad Pitt 800,000 to help him
yeah.
with his medical bills because his money was like tied up in the divorce or something weird like that.
Oh, bless her heart. That sounds like a Clara. That might be a Clara.
That might be a Clara. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, they could have the days off just a little. Like she may remember it as maybe that day when maybe it was actually a couple days later. Or maybe
I don't know. As someone that lives with a woman, I can't imagine them forgetting a specific date.
I'm horrible with dates. Brad's the date person. I'm horrible with dates.
Oh yeah, I don't know any dates, and my wife
Mm-mm.
can tell you when my second cousin's daughter was born.
Yeah, no. Brad knows our first date. I don't know. He actually has it posted. He bought me a poster with the night sky of the time and the date that we met. And it's a picture of the night sky of that night. And I think it was just to remind me what day our first date was. It's a romantic gesture to be like, remember, we actually met on this day. I'm horrible with dates. I can do birthdays, but that's about it. And our wedding anniversary.
Yeah,
But
don't ask me to remember any date.
yeah, I can remember like the main ones, but those other ones, no. no. So, maybe they just got all carried away with their brandy and forgot what day it was.
A lot of mentions of brandy,
Lots of brandy.
which is an interesting drink choice.
It is, and if she wasn't a big drinker, maybe she was just not clearly remembering everything.
Once he starts
And so,
feeding her brandy.
yeah, yeah. And so he can make up anything. And so he can just totally con her into believing how their relationship started.
That is an interesting idea. I hadn't even thought of that angle for this book. So what do you think the book really is then? Is it a 100% true story? Is it the book a complete phony, a sham? Was Clara the one being conned? Was Max Gunther the one being conned? What is the real story behind this book?
I do wonder if everyone was being conned except for Paul Cotton. I think he was the con. Because, I mean, just think of all the ways he was trying to leave his family. And then, he's living in the hotel in what, California somewhere? He's in or is he in Oregon? Where is he in the hotel? Where he's like cleaning a hotel. And then that's when they tie
I think it
in
was
the
California.
Elsinore ghost
Yeah.
kind of issue.
But towards the end of the book, he like loses the good job he had because they like went into his personnel record and then double checked some
Mhm,
of that info. That's such a weird story because if you have a good employee that's already there,
mhm.
are you going to go for no reason, look at their personnel file, double check all that stuff after they've been there for a while, and then not only fire you, but fire the guy whose job it was to go through personnel files? Once you're on board, you're you're hired. Unless it's some
Yeah.
sort of a weird government job or they're gonna I got a DUI 4 weeks ago and my job requires driving and now it's like, oh man, every 6 months my company is gonna pull up my driving record and as soon as that comes up, I'm toast. But your work isn't gonna call the company you worked for 10 years ago while you've been there for 3 years and be like, is it true that Nicole really
Hmm.
worked at this Chick-fil-A?
Hmm.
It's just not gonna happen.
No, unless he wasn't working there. What if he was pretending to go to work? Or like, what if he had to make up a story? Like John List, right? So List was pretending to go to work every day and he was going and reading the newspaper at what, the train
At the
station or
train
something?
station, yeah.
Yeah. So what if he just needed to tell her something like he didn't want to say, I got fired because I sucked at my job. But, he's like, well, they looked into my background and couldn't prove who I was. That sounds more mysterious than just being like, well, I don't do really good at work.
Yeah, that's true. And if you're already a mysterious serial liar, you're not going to go home and be like, yeah, I was late one too many times. They caught me drinking brandy on the job
Randy.
again. And so they let me go. No, you're going to
Yeah,
make up some weird story that doesn't make sense about how it's not your fault at all why you got fired.
exactly. You're always the victim. So maybe he didn't do that, but I mean, yeah, because he was at the hotel so in California, and then he was in Washington or Oregon. Where was he at the hotel there? Portland. He was in Portland at that hotel, and that's when he started learning about the aircraft and planning the hijacking, supposedly, right?
Supposedly, yeah.
Yeah, and because he couldn't afford a parachute, which is why he demanded parachutes. Isn't that how the book phrased it?
Yeah, which I'm not sure I agree with that. If you're gonna go commit some sort of a crime and you're $100 short, aren't you just gonna figure out how to get that?
Right.
Or you could just steal a parachute somehow.
Yeah. No, so I mean, it was interesting about, like the full moon and stuff, calculating, when to jump. So, I mean, that took a little planning into that, kind of like Martin McNally did. Like he looked at the moon cycle when he was going to jump because he didn't want a full moon, too much light. So, I mean, some of the things make sense. That's the hard part. Some of these things, like, okay, well,
But he doesn't want
maybe
light, but he's gonna use a flashlight to check his altimeter.
that's true.
and then he loses the flashlight on the way down somehow. I hate that flashlight thing. Ask a skydiver if they're just going to loosely hold a flashlight.
No.
No, they're not. They'll say, I could hold a
Mhm.
flashlight, but I'm not going to unless for some reason I had to hold this flashlight.
Like, can you even hold on to that
Yeah, you could
going?
hold on to a
Okay.
flashlight.
Okay. I've not been skydiving. So I don't know like how that feels, how the pressure is as you kind of fall. Like
It'd be like do go 100 miles an hour in your car and hold your arm out the window with a flashlight.
okay. Okay.
You can do it. It doesn't seem like a good idea or very
No.
safe, but you
No.
can do it.
It could be done. Okay. Yeah. So supposedly he had what? A wool hat, an altimeter, candy bars.
That's right.
Um,
He had like an orange and a chocolate bar.
yeah.
Or
His
was it an
flashlight.
apple? I think it was an apple and a
Was it
chocolate
an
bar.
apple? I know it was like a piece of fruit in the candy bars. Um, and a dark russet suit, which was interesting because now that was something that Cooper was not in black. So see that stuff like that that you're like, well, maybe how did he get that information?
But russet is like specifically the word that the paint guy
Mm-hmm.
gave Cooper's suit. So I think like Gunther made a read an article from someone that interviewed him, or maybe he interviewed that guy himself.
Himself. Hmm.
And because the term russet is very specific,
Yeah, I
I
don't
would
use
never
that
say
term.
something is russet colored.
No. Me either. Rust, maybe like a rusty color or like a reddish brown, but I wouldn't say russet.
Yeah. My vocabulary of colors is much more limited than that gentleman's.
Right. Well, he was a painter, so I'm sure he knew all of the Benjamin Moore colors just fine. Right, because he was the painter, right?
Yeah.
So he knew all of his colors that we don't even know, like cerulean blue and stuff like that. But yeah, so no, it reading it again, I don't know.
There are some good things. I mean,
Uh-huh.
industrial chemicals
That was a good
come
one.
from that. You have that Elsinore ghost
Yeah.
interaction in there.
When did we
Um,
first find out about the Elsinore ghost? When did
that's a
Lyle Cameron first
good
introduce that
question.
story?
I'm not sure. I think the Elsinore ghost is mentioned in Max Gunther's book, and then it wasn't really believed. And then Joe was like, I could be getting this all wrong, but I think Joe was
Right.
like, oh, yeah, that's definitely part of the story. And
You're
it was
right.
Dwayne, of course. And so it was sort of
Okay.
discredited. And then, the FBI files come out. It's like, okay, that Elsinore ghost story is real.
Okay. Because I mean, that's the hard part about the book is it does have some really key facts that aren't widely known that do make you think, maybe. But I mean, Gunther, he was who, who do we know who he interviewed during the writing of this book
Not really.
besides Clara?
Because I remember like Marty and Dave talking about trying to get Max Gunther's notes for this book. Like if they could talk to his kids somehow and maybe like, hey, did your dad keep any files? Which it seems like he did because he
Yeah.
kept all the correspondence from like
Hmm.
10 years earlier when this came back up. And he was like, oh, I think I saved that. And so he's just got file cabinets of
Yeah.
every document he ever had.
Where are
And
they?
that's a great question because it's one of those things like you and I would, literally kill for the opportunity to go look at that stuff. But as a
Yes.
family member, you would look at it and be like, who's going to throw all these away?
You think though, but if that was your family member and if that's your family member's career, I don't know, I'm sentimental. So I probably would hold on to everything. But yeah, you're right. Some people would be like, junk it. It's just paper.
Yeah. Especially if you don't have a great relationship with your kids,
Oh, yeah.
which I
And
don't know.
see,
I don't know. I'm not saying he had a good one or a bad
right.
one. I'm saying I truly have no idea. But if, maybe you weren't the greatest dad and you were absent and then you die and now it's people who don't really know you going through your possessions and
Yeah. No, that's true.
it's like,
There's
okay,
no
we'll
connection.
take the iPad and that TV looks pretty cool and everything else just kind of haul it
Mhm.
in the dumpster, give it to the estate sale lady.
Yeah. So no one knows really where those things are. We don't know for sure that they're with the family.
I have no idea, and I would like to think I would know.
Right?
But if Marty or Dave, they'd probably be the ones to know. But
To
I
know.
think as far as that is concerned, like there hasn't been any information on where his notes or his files on this
Oh,
might
it would
be,
be.
or if they were saved at all.
I wonder if they would come on your show.
I
Wouldn't
would
it be
I'd love to
interesting?
talk to them.
Yeah, to
I
get
was
like
even
his
thinking
point of
like
view.
about like Tusaw's family. Like
Yeah,
I'm sure that guy saved everything from that as well.
absolutely. Did Tucson have kids?
I wasn't sure. In the beginning, like about the author thing, it
Oh,
kind of made it seem like he had a family.
yeah, I can't remember because he got a couple of the 20s. He ended up being the lawyer, right? Didn't he represent the Ingrams during that? But it would be great to get their family on here and just kind of get a behind the scenes look.
Yeah, and I want to know like if my dad wrote an obscure book, even if it's something I'm not interested in at all, I would be able to tell you what my dad's thoughts were on it
Because
and
I'm
things
sure
like that. Yeah, talked about
he
it at
talked.
Thanksgiving or the day
Yeah.
after.
I mean, if he's contacting the FBI, then he's probably been like, hey, I got this letter. This is what it said. Maybe they saw the letter. Maybe they knew what was going on. That's definitely not a story I don't think you're going to keep to yourself if it's something that you go to the FBI about.
Well, they're welcome on the show anytime. Feel free to reach out to me. dbcooperpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun to hear their side. I hope they reach out. But yeah, no. So I mean, reading it again, I forgot how much actually was about his planning to escape, his living in California, his like situationship with the woman out there who didn't she like leave him saying he wasn't exciting enough or something? Wasn't
Something
that
along, yeah, or boring, or there's no spontaneity anymore.
yeah. So he's gonna go
I would want to
jump out
leave
of a
if
plane.
somebody said that to me. Like,
Me too.
you're not spontaneous enough. Not only do I not even know what that means, but I'm still upset enough by it that I'm leaving.
Yeah, I'm out.
Surprise.
Yeah. See ya. So I mean, I don't know. Reading it again, like I said, this time I was definitely trying to figure out if Clara was a man or a woman, or B, if we maybe knew who she was, i.e., Barb. But I came out not knowing any more than when I went in. Except I do think that because the writer or Clara or whoever sent the letters thinks that finding an injured fugitive in your shed is a love story, that might be a man, not a woman.
Hey, it worked out for her 100% of the time. So who are you to question those kind of stats?
I'm not gonna, that's true. This is true. This was a different time, this was the 70s.
All right. She describes how Dan LeClaire or Paul Cotton looks. And she describes an actor named Ben Gazzara, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
pronouncing his name right.
Yeah,
And he is a very olive-skinned fellow,
he
like a
is.
Mediterranean kind of look to him.
He does. He does look very Mediterranean. But that was something they kind of knew already, right?
Yeah,
That
it's
was in
on the
the,
wanted
yeah,
poster.
yeah,
Olive complexion, possible Native American or Hispanic descent.
yes. But he did wear glasses. She said that he did wear glasses. He was in his mid 40s. She said though he had a tweed suit on when she found him.
Yeah, like a heavy wool
Mm-hmm.
clothes. And it's
Thick
like,
wool sweater.
yeah, that doesn't really make sense.
No, maybe it was in his mystery bag.
Wool clothes would be a good choice in the Pacific Northwest. You can
It
stay
would.
warm while you're soaking wet.
Absolutely. So, yeah, maybe. It seems
But also a
ridiculous at
wool
first, but
sweater, even when you fold it up, it's gigantic.
massive.
It's like one of
Well,
those puffy ski coats. It's not going to bundle together nicely to fit in your mystery bag.
maybe that's the only thing he had in the mystery bag.
Could
Everything
be.
else he could have put in his pockets, right? You can put a flashlight in your pocket. You can put a gun in your pocket. You could put a wool hat in your pocket. Candy bars in your pocket. What else did he have? An apple.
An apple.
All those things could go in a pocket.
I like his description of what he did when he landed. So he lands on the
Mm-hmm.
rocky edge of a creek or a stream, something like that, hurts his ankle. That
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. That sounds
Yeah,
very logical.
absolutely.
He then buries the parachute and the money,
Mm-hmm.
minus what he put in his pockets,
Yes.
which was $16,000.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds like a very realistic first 5 minutes on the ground to me.
It really
I
does.
mean, he doesn't have to get hurt that way, but that land on the ground, I'm putting this in my pocket, I'm hiding
Mhm.
the parachute and the money, it's right here. Okay, I'm taking a $184,000 mental note of where this is because I'm
Right.
coming back for the rest of this money
Yeah.
and then
No,
getting out
that
of there.
no, I think that is actually a very good realistic. So I wonder if this was an add-in from Gunther or if this was all straight from Clara.
I imagine, or I'd hope it came from Clara.
Yeah, because they went back to look for the money.
Right. And we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But after all this happens, his
Hmm.
leg is hurt pretty bad, so
Hmm.
he crawls what would be like a 1 day crawl
Yeah.
to get there, which they said later when he was healthy, it was like a 1 to 2 hour walk from where the woodshed was. So he
Yeah.
crawls for hours, finds the woodshed, sleeps for the rest of that night, or maybe it's early morning by the time he finally gets into the woodshed. And then he's found later that day because he's found the day after
Hmm.
in the woodshed,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine that I'm hurt and I'm going to go into somebody's woodshed
No.
because people that live in the woods are very paranoid and protective of their
Right.
property. And I
Yes.
personally have had a gun put in my face for knocking on the wrong door in that area. It's actually happened a few times working at DirecTV. And it's just like they didn't expect you. They didn't expect anyone to be there. And now there's somebody that's not supposed to be here. So it'd be very dangerous to to
Yeah.
surprise someone in their woodshed. And everyone in that area would have known
Hmm.
what just happened. It was
Yeah.
all over the news. They wanted people in that area to be well aware that this was going on.
Hmm. And supposedly this cousin arrives from out of town just in the same amount of time when Cooper is being looked for. But but it works because there are no search efforts for what, 48 hours? So
It's
that gives them
something like that,
time.
yeah.
Gives them time to crawl to a shed.
He definitely had time to do that.
Yeah.
But
Unless
I don't see, even with my broken leg,
mhm.
I would probably give up and ask for help. Just help me. I don't want to die. Versus I'm going to go in somebody's woodshed and it be a surprise. Because then I could, instead of just being killed by them, they could be like, "You're Cooper, right? Where's the money?" And now
But
I'm a
and then
kidnapped victim hostage
your
of some
misery.
crazy guy in the woods. Yeah, it's misery.
You've got Kathy Bates.
Right. And if I'm lucky, they'd be asking me to write a novel for them. More likely, you just draw on this map where the money is, and if you're wrong, we'll come back and kill
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, so but he wasn't afraid to die on the airplane. So I don't know. I don't think he would have given up because that was a capital crime, like capital punishment, right? It was a death penalty at that time if he was found.
I believe it could have been. I don't. Was there anyone that did this without murdering anyone that got capital punishment? I don't think there was.
No, because by the time, who was the next one after? Because by the time McCoy did it, it was during McCoy's trial that they changed it, right? To not being capital punishment,
The
death
point,
penalty.
I
Oh,
think,
okay.
was between
That.
Cooper and McCoy. I don't know. I probably just got that
I
wrong, and
know.
Ryan's screaming at his dashboard
I
now.
know, right? But I mean, he was let out. Lapointe was let out. Most all of them were freed. So I don't think any of them ever got to the point of being charged with that.
I mean, if you
Right.
shoot a stewardess and a passenger, then
Well, yeah, but
enjoy
like
your ride in
for
the electric chair. But
yes, but you know, for the ones that didn't physically hurt anyone, which I don't think Lapointe didn't physically hurt anyone. None of the copycats did they? Actually, physically hurt someone. Mentally, yes, but physically, right?
I don't know. I don't want to comment. If Nicole's wrong, everyone point out how wrong she is. Because I'm not going to say anything because I'm not 100% sure.
I don't think so.
I can't think
Heinemann
of one
just
specific.
yelled, right? He was just yelling and telling his family history. Um, Hetty, like he fired a shot when he ran into the plane. Marty, like I think he just, growled at everyone.
Yeah, just a little bit of rude behavior.
Yeah. But I can't remember if any of the copycats that we talk about actually physically hurt someone. Obviously, they're the ones that, that weren't trying to jump out of the back of the plane that did hurt people. But I don't know. So I don't know how many of them got the death penalty that survived. Like, a lot of them were killed during it.
Yeah, Lapointe was the next one, January of
He was?
72.
Okay. And
And he
Lapointe's the
served
one
40
that
years.
broke his ankle. He had cowboy boots on, right? That's the point.
I don't know. Why are you making me talk about
I'm sorry.
copycats?
Okay, let's go back to Gunther. Let's go
Back to
Gunther.
Gunther. I forgot to mention in my notes of why the Gunther book is an absolute true story.
Uh-huh.
Stationed in Belgium for a while.
That was a good one. That was a good one because they
'Cause-
did not know about the Dan Cooper comic until Larry Carr, right?
Right.
So you got a really good point. Like I try to make myself believe that it's not real, but there are some really good points that.
And obviously he enjoyed magazines, so
Yeah.
if he's picking that stuff up, stationed in Belgium, doesn't speak the language, here's this comic book.
Yeah.
But that's me creating a scenario where this person read an
Right.
obscure comic book in a foreign country in a foreign language.
Does it say Dan Cooper in English or does it
It's
Dan?
the Dan Cooper part says Dan Cooper,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, you don't need to know the rest of the language. I mean, you can figure out what a picture is. I don't think you need to know the rest of the story.
Yeah, I could look at a comic book in a different language and probably be pretty accurate with what just
Yeah.
happened in there.
So, maybe. The chemical salesman, the industrial chemical salesman, and that there are things that really do line up that do make you think, or is it just luck of the draw? Because how many people are stationed in Belgium during that time?
Or even just passing through. I mean, it could be that there's this one military base there, so you're going to be there for 7 days until your next flight.
Yeah. How many? Because what, World War II? I mean, how many people went through there? I mean, it's right beside France.
I mean, it could be like 100,000 dudes.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe it's not so crazy that someone would be in Belgium at that time. But I don't know how they would kind of get out of there or not. Let's see.
All right, let's go back to the money.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So
Okay,
he puts $16,000 in his pocket and leaves the rest of the money out there. They go back to find it a little while later, can't find it. They debate what happened. He mentions that there was a chocolate bar and an apple or an orange in there or something like that. But then they do find it, and they found 87,000, something like that. It ended up
they
being
found
103,000 total of
yeah.
money.
Yep, they found 87,000. Yep. They put
Which
it in a
is
suitcase.
interesting that he did lose a huge portion of it.
Yeah. I mean, it would make sense. Obviously, if Cooper lost the money, he's not so cool in his own eyes anymore. So, I mean, it does kind of make sense. Not only do you not want to get caught, but you don't want to be like, yeah, I left it in there with some food and a bear drug it away and I had to like go chase it down again. That's not like a smooth move kind of thing.
No, not really. And then he's
But
too afraid to spend it.
mhm.
But my problem with losing $100,000 is someone's going to find it.
Mhm.
And it's not, I lost my notebook that has all my secret passwords and all my information
Mhm.
and the script to the new movie I wrote in it. Someone's going to look at that and throw it away and not care. If you walked by a $20 bill, you were going to
Yeah.
pick it up.
Yes.
And you would even, if you saw it floating in the stream, you're going to crawl down there to pick that up
Yeah.
because it would be essentially a $100 bill today.
Right.
And if you saw a $100 bill in a treacherous spot, you're going to risk it. I think I could get there.
Yeah.
My shoes might get wet, but
Right.
it's worth $100.
And $100,000 worth of $20 bills.
Right. And the idea
That's a
that none of
lot.
them were found. Because if you're going to
Yeah.
lose that much, I could believe that this one group of kids found some money and didn't tell anyone and spent it.
Yeah.
Very, very believable. But $100,000?
That's true. I hadn't thought about it in that way. That is a lot of money to have
It's a
lost.
lot of money. And then
I think I was just reading it thinking, oh man, he still had $100,000, not thinking the glass is half empty. Like, oh, where's that other $100,000?
and then they just
That's
hold on
true.
to it for like 7 years or something like that before they
Yeah,
decide to
they keep it
launder
in
it
that
at casinos.
suitcase. Yes. After they try what she did spend 120 in a grocery store, right? Like after
I
going
thought
in,
she
going out,
chickened
going
out
in.
because I thought it
Did
was
she chicken
something
out?
like, I'm going to buy this stuff and pay with $60 and then get
That's right.
$19 back in real money.
That's right. That's right. Yes. Because, yeah, they just kept going back and forth and back and forth. And then the sister almost takes the suitcase when she comes over to visit
That's
because
an
she doesn't think
unnecessary story.
a little fluff to the story. A little drama. It added a little drama to it. Like,
Right. And she's like, her family doesn't want her to be living with the guy in the sin when she's in her mid
mhm.
30s.
Yeah. Well, I mean, back then, I think it was a little different.
I agree, but she's she's in her mid 30s now at this point. Like,
Yeah.
you're not telling your 22-year-old daughter, like, living with this guy is a mistake. She's, I don't know if they gave her specific age, but it's like mid to late 30s when this happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Because it does talk about, she's kind of mousy, doesn't get out a whole lot. I do think they do. She is like 30. She's divorced though. She is divorced because she was married. So yeah, maybe they're a little bit looser on her because she's already been married once. But it's maybe that was just extra fluff, extra excitement of maybe losing the money. There's a little discord between the family. Or maybe con men try to cause discord between families so that they can get away.
Well, that's definitely true.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely true. The angle of the only con man in this story being Paul Cotton and or Dan LeClaire, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought of it from that angle before.
I think it's a because I mean, if Clara really believes this, I mean, I don't think she's part of the con if the way she's writing about this.
Right. And she would believe the weird details that this guy
Mm-hmm.
told her.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't be me telling her, oh, actually, that didn't happen. She would be, yeah, it did. He
Yeah.
told me that's what
Mm-hmm.
happened.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, I could
especially
see
if
that.
your relationship starts with a fugitive in a shed, like not many things are going to surprise you at that point. You're going to be like,
I
oh,
just
okay.
can't believe that part of the story.
You know, but yeah, maybe it wasn't as exciting. Maybe they changed that story. Maybe she found him like laid out in the grass or something.
I would love to know. I'm going to set this up. I'm going to get a house in the woods and I'm going to hire 2,000 women that will stay there for 1 week at a time. And somewhere during that week are going to stumble across a man in the shed. I'm going to say of the 2,000, 1,985 will immediately run for their
Yes.
life,
Yes.
potentially right into their car and drive away to report the
Yes.
crime. And they're
Yes.
not going to be there. They're not going to stand in the house
No.
alone while they wait for the police.
No.
They're
No. That's
taking
why this
off.
is a horror movie. This is a horror movie. Like this
And I
is
think
don't
there
go
would
into the
be
basement.
some women that would be like, "Do you need help? I'm going to call the police," but not approach. Just like an extreme form of kindness. I can't imagine any of the 2,000 would be like, "Well, would you like to come inside and have some
Have
brandy
some
with me?"
brandy by the fire. No, absolutely not. That I mean, if it's a door to a shed, I'm grabbing a shovel, I'm slipping it through so he's stuck in there and I'm out.
And the
I'm
dog's
I'm
freaking out.
yeah, I get the dog out. Shovel, door's locked, he's stuck in there. I at least have enough time to get away to the cops. Like, no, you're right. People are not going to be like, oh, you need some help. How are you doing today? Oh, did you hurt your foot? No.
Because she helps him inside basically right away.
Yeah.
She originally brings him some soup or something, and he eats that, and they talk for a few more minutes, and then it's like, okay, would you like to come inside?
Yeah.
And then he's like, can I get another sandwich? Actually, I'm starving.
It's so everything about this is so wrong. It's so wrong. Like it's no, like that she is the person in the movie that you're like, don't go into the basement and they have to go check out the noise in the basement. Like this is she's doing everything wrong. But maybe it's because she's naive and she doesn't know better.
Maybe it's one of those things where if you really want to believe this book is real and this is the true story of DB Cooper, there's a lot of stuff you just got to throw away.
Yeah.
And in doing that, how can this be the real true story? How could this
No,
be what really happened?
no, it's not, obviously. It's what maybe Paul Cotton told her what really happened.
I really like that he swindled Clara.
Everyone.
That's a really interesting angle. But then how do you explain that the stamp from Clara to Himmelsbach is male DNA?
Hmm. How could we explain that? If he's the swindler, didn't he have a son? He had a son and a daughter. He was
Yeah, I
closer to
think
the
he had a son and
daughter.
a daughter.
Whatever happened to the son? Like he went to the daughter, like he wanted to go to the daughter's graduation, but didn't. He called her instead, right?
Right, and I like it in the book. It's just like having a casual conversation. If
Yeah.
I'm estranged from my daughter, I just give her a random call. I can't imagine that's going to go great.
No. Or hang on. When did the letter was sent after Paul Cotton was dead,
Right,
right? So maybe Clara had a new man.
a different guy fell out of the sky.
Yeah. Maybe she had someone new. And she was like, here, can you go mail this for me? And so he was like, sure. Lick the stamp, put it in the mail. Maybe.
No, that can't happen. That's a bit of a stretch.
That is, but isn't the whole book a bit of a stretch?
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
I think at this point we can just make up whatever we want. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's some of the parts, like with the daughter, it just seems too calm. Like what he went to Boston to have dinner with his daughter, and then he paid with one of those 20s.
Yes, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot
So
about that part.
And I'm pretty sure it was Cape Cod where he like, yeah, they vacationed in Cape Cod. So there are a lot of Boston references, and it was mailed from what, New York?
Yeah, I
The
believe
letter?
so.
It's not too far away. Not that they're real people, but
Where was Max Gunther located? Was
that I
he in
don't
New
know.
York also?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know where he lived.
I
Does
don't
it
know
say
where he
on the
lived either.
book? Oh, does it stay in the? Because the cover just tells about the.
He lived in New York, Italy, and Switzerland.
Oh,
Oh, no,
nice.
I lied. He lived most of his adult life in Ridgefield, Connecticut.
Interesting. Very New England, Boston, Connecticut, Cape Cod. Hmm. It's a small town up there.
That
Maybe.
makes it a little interesting that he's in the Northeast also.
Yeah. And when he was trying to redo the hijacking to get money again, he goes to LaGuardia. Paul Cotton does. So I don't know. Maybe there is some.
The idea of doing the hijacking again, even in that book, seemed so ridiculous.
It did. It really did. That one, I don't know. Maybe he was just conning her into thinking. Maybe she was doubting who he was. And he was like, let me go out at the airport just to really make her think I am him.
Right, I'm gonna tell her I'm gonna do it again.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go to the off-track betting place with my friend Todd, and we're gonna smoke cigarettes for a few hours, and then I'll go back
Right.
and tell her that I chickened out.
I mean, but it is interesting. They move to New York. She tells her family she's in Texas. I mean, it just sounds like, I don't know, maybe I just do watch too many scary movies. I mean, it just sounds like the con man trying to like steal her away. Who knows what's going to happen to her? He has her lying to her family, telling her where, she's like, oh, we're in Texas, but they're really in New York. I mean, it just.
But I struggle. Like my whole life is such a lie now, and I'm lying to everyone about everything. That just seems so stressful to me.
Well, I mean,
But
not to
I'm not
us,
that person.
right?
Yeah.
Because we're not like that. But to someone who that's just who they are, they probably wouldn't think twice about it. And then, maybe because sometimes I think people who just lie all the time, sometimes they do come up with lies that you're like, that cannot be real. But they actually believe it's real because their whole life is a lie. So they could just, whatever they come out of their mouth, they believe is happening. So maybe some of the weird stuff he does think is real. And that's what he's telling her.
So what's our final verdict on the Max Gunther book?
I'm sticking with Paul was a con man and conned them all. That's what I'm going to stick with.
That's a really good angle, and I don't think I've heard that one before.
That's what I like.
Because then Paul and Clara are different people,
Mm-hmm.
and she believed it and
Mm-hmm.
sold it to Max Gunther, who believed it also.
Mm-hmm. Because I mean, his stories just don't make up. Like you said, losing the job, because they looked into his history. Well, wouldn't they have done that when well, I know they said the guy was lazy and didn't look at everyone's records, but you're right. Like, if you've got a good employee, you're not going to start looking into him and then get rid of him if he's a good employee.
Right. Would it just be like, why did you say you went to USC when really you went to Caltech or
Right.
whatever it is? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I said that just because of this. But if you like the guy and he's doing a good job, you're not going
Yeah.
to be like, well, I got to fire you for this, lying
Right.
on your application when you've been awesome for the last 3.5
Yeah.
years.
No. So he probably was screwing up at work.
Because it was a sales job. It's not like he said he was a
Right.
brain surgeon and then it turns out that doesn't check
Exactly.
out.
Right. Like, I mean, so many people were salesmen. I mean, you had door to door salesmen everywhere during that time. So, like, sales was a huge job. So, he probably just was not good at it and was fired and was pretending he had this great job that he really didn't. He probably was working at McDonald's and coming home.
Be easier to hide something like that then than it would be today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you don't have half the stuff to track these days. You wouldn't know where he was. What if he only had one car? She couldn't follow him.
Right.
And if he's already conned her to this point, she's just going to go along with whatever.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, that's how I think. What is your final take?
My final take is that I'm annoyed that this book is a mystery. I want to know who Claire was, who Paul Cotton was, who Dan LeClaire was. I want to know, like, if this was a con, if it is the real true story, but a lot of these weird details that are wrong are inserted by Max Gunther because he didn't
Yeah.
have the information. I'm not sure.
I think we just need to give the envelope to Colleen.
Yeah, I fully support that idea.
She should be able to find something off of that. If she can get DNA from the hair slide, if we ever find the hair slide, then a stamp should be like a gold mine.
But then it could just lead us to who this is, and that doesn't matter. But
Well, at
it
least we'd
just
have an
solves the
answer.
mystery of this book
Yeah.
for the, let's say there's 38 people that really care
But
about
it's a
this.
win. I feel like we need a win in this case. Like,
Yeah, I
I feel like
definitely
we
agree with
just
that.
need a win. And this would give us a win. I think this would give us a little boost.
Yeah, because I was even excited about it being Barb, because then it's
Mhm.
like, oh, that part, this mystery is solved. It's
Yeah.
Barb. Clara is
Yeah.
Barb. But reading it again, going into it with, oh, keep this in mind. Like, Clara could be
Hmm.
Barb. I just felt less confident rereading it
Yeah.
that Barb was Clara.
Yeah. I like the idea, but I agree with you because that's how I went into reading it the second time. Was trying to be like, could this be Barb? Or who is Clara? Is it a woman? Is it a man? Because I knew the male DNA on the stamp. But you're right. I love Barb as Clara, but I don't think Barb is Clara.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm right there with you because I
Yeah.
immediately went to, oh, I'm 99% sure that Clara is
Yeah.
Barb because I want it
Yeah.
to be true.
Right.
And
We just want
then
her in the story somewhere.
yeah, and then the postmark being from New York and
Yeah.
then rereading it and now it's like, okay, yeah, it's still possible, but now I
Yeah.
lean more towards that it wasn't.
No, but I mean, even if we can just find out who the stamp was, I mean, we could find out something, even if it wasn't, you know, obviously not Paul Cotton or Clara, but someone involved. Maybe we could kind of connect the dots and figure out, be like, oh, yeah, I know this person. Her name was really such and such. And
Yeah, and would your aunt have been the type of person to write these letters to a
mm-hmm,
reporter?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And did she have a mysterious boyfriend?
Right. Who just showed up one day.
It was a con man.
Because, yeah, that'd be really interesting too. It's like, oh, yeah, we knew that
Mm-hmm,
my Aunt Betsy hooked up with this guy and he was a
mm-hmm,
bad guy. And
mm-hmm.
he just told her all sorts of these lies and controlled her. And
Yeah. Yeah. And no family would talk about that. That would be like kept in the closet. Like you don't talk about Aunt Betsy like that, So, the story wouldn't have gotten out because families wouldn't have been like, oh, did you hear about that? Telling strangers. They would keep it in the family. They'd gossip about it all in the family, but it never leave the family. So you just got to find one family member.
you got to think that if Clara went to the effort of communicating the story, writing to Himmelsbach, dealing with Gunther and talking to him on the phone and doing all this, she would have ran her mouth to some other people,
Mm-hmm.
especially when the book came out.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that I have this book out that's about me,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to tell anyone. There's just no way. I'm going to
No.
run my mouth like crazy. Be like, hey, you
Yeah.
know that Max Gunther book that just came out? It's really about me. It's
It's
really
me.
about me. It's me.
It's me. Yeah. No, I mean, I think this is solvable, I think, if we just have that letter.
Do you think it's required reading in the Vortex?
Because there's so much talk about it, yes. Does it add to the case? No.
Well
Don't
said.
you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend anyone read this to learn about the case
No.
or, here's a suspect avenue you can go down. It is just another mystery inside the mystery of DB Cooper.
Yes.
That we have this weird book that comes out 14 years after the hijacking, that it's presented as true by an author who never wrote fiction, really.
Mm-hmm. Just how to leave your husbands and wives.
Just how to leave your husbands and wives. Doesn't he have like a how to get rich book?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So, I mean, it was right up his alley. This kind of book was right up his alley. So I see why they reached out to him. But yeah, no, I don't think it helps anything. But I think because we talk about it so much, you got to read it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm annoyed when people real deep in the Vortex haven't read it. Not because, it's going to solve anything or there's this one hot take, but it's so weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, do you think would you like judge someone on their amount of Cooperiteness? Like you're not a true Cooperite if you haven't read the Gunther book?
No, I wouldn't go that far. But if you like to read or if you like to have a weird, obscure book collection,
Yes.
then this one is for you.
It is.
Because it's not poorly written either. It was a good read.
No, it is a good read. It is a good read. It's a fast read.
Some of the second half drags on a little bit.
Yes.
And it seems like there's some stuff in there that could have maybe been cut out. Doesn't matter, but
yeah. It is interesting, the ad in the newspaper and stuff. Those things are interesting. But yeah, you're right. The second half does drag a little. But I think it's worth a read.
What is our scale out of 4 parachutes?
Out of 4 parachutes, I would give it 3.
I'm giving it 3 also.
Yeah.
It's a good book. It's a fun read. It's not going to solve the case.
No.
Nothing in here should be referenced as fact.
Don't use it in
just about
Wikipedia.
anything. Yeah.
I agree. But yeah, I give it a 3 parachute. It's worth a read. You shouldn't skip it.
3 parachutes it is.
Yeah, I like it. Okay.
All right. Speaking of facts, we also read Tusaw,
Yes.
DB Cooper, Dead or Alive.
Dead or Alive.
Tagline: The true story of the legendary skyjacker.
Which it has a great cover.
It does have a great cover.
I think the bomb's not quite accurate. But it does have a really good cover. Considering compared to a lot of some of the other covers I guess we've seen. It's good. I like the cover. And Tusaw, it was interesting because he interviewed everyone.
He interviewed everyone. He really did.
How do you think he got away with that?
I think because he was an FBI agent for 5 years or whatever.
Yeah, they felt.
And then was a lawyer at some firm, and then he becomes a self-proclaimed mystery-solving author.
Yeah, right.
Does he have another mystery-solving book?
No, after this, I mean, he published it because it's published by Tusaw Publishing Company.
Richard Thomas Tusaw.
I do think it's interesting.
See that one book.
Just the one. Okay.
A paperback of Tusaw is $135 on Amazon?
Wow. Well, okay. I will say what's sad is I did pay him the double digits for my Tusaw book. And when I got it and opened it, it has a $5 red sticker on it.
Mine has Tusaw's signature.
Oh, that's a good one. No, I don't have Tusaw's signature, but I've got a number in it. Number 1244.
Yeah, it seems like that's his only book.
Yeah, because about the author, he just kind of tells about his life growing up and his time in the Coast Guard and playing football. So he doesn't really talk about much. So I don't know. What did he do after the book?
Apparently nothing. Okay, now that I'm looking at his books, I'm really
Yeah.
angry because there's a DB Cooper Dead or Alive that has a first edition stamp in it,
Oh,
and
but aren't
mine
they
does not
all?
have that.
Don't they all have? They're all first edition, though, right?
This book says first edition number 8742. I can't imagine that many books were
Well, so I've got this in mind.
1244. Mine doesn't have a weird number on it.
Well, you have a signature, so I think yours just.
Mine says first edition inside the
Yeah.
first page, but
Yes.
on that
Same.
main cover page, it doesn't have a number or first
doesn't have a
edition.
number.
That's interesting, but
Maybe you
also
have.
it bothers me.
So,
Why don't I have that?
well, maybe so. Two Saw signed yours.
Yes,
How did you get that one?
I bought it from like thrift books or eBay or Amazon,
Oh,
and it
okay.
just showed up with that
Interesting.
signature.
Okay. That was a lucky find. I didn't know if maybe it was kind of like passed down because I was thinking maybe it was like Tusaw's own book in his own collection.
I wonder if I bought mine on Amazon. If I did, I could tell you how much I paid for it.
I did buy mine on Amazon. And well, no, it's not a thrift books because those all come with the sticker on it that says thrift books.
No, I didn't buy it on Amazon. Dang it. I did buy the real McCoy on Amazon for like
Oh,
$15.
no way. I think I bought my Ha 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 on Amazon. Yeah, I found a Ha Ha on Amazon. Or was it eBay? I can't remember. That's about the only two places you can find them.
But yeah, his book comes out in 1984, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Gunther wished that he would have
Red.
had access to that. And I think if DB Cooper, What Really Happened, would have come out before Tusaw's book, it would have been referenced in it.
That's true. That is true. Unless, I mean, I guess we don't know how much research Max Gunther did, though. Did he just go off of Clara's stuff and then
Well,
fill
we
in
know
the
he
rest?
talked to Himmelsbach.
That's true because he kept calling him. Both of them call Himmelsbach the Portland case agent.
Yeah. Which is funny because there's no case agent in Portland.
No.
But he is the Portland case
He
agent,
is the
I guess.
Portland. He has crowned himself the Portland case agent.
But I mean, he, like you said, he interviewed absolutely everyone, and
Yeah.
this is now like the fourth in this series, or we've also read another book in between this, so
Yes.
it's my fifth book this month about the hijacking,
Look at
and
that. Yes.
to read a fifth account of what happened on the plane that day was kind of a chore, but also
Yeah.
because it was this book, it was so good.
It really was.
His account of the hijacking might be one of the best.
I agree. And isn't this one, doesn't Tusaw say that he nods at her or like waves at her when she turns to go into the cockpit
Yeah.
in this book? Yeah, no, I think it's really good because and he interviewed Tina when she was at the convent.
Yes.
Which is very interesting. But yeah, I mean, he talked to everyone. Soderling, Radicek, all of and Soderling, Hancock, Manning, and Radicek all wrote a book review on it, which is impressive, which makes you really take into account what he has to say, which is when I'm sad sometimes when things aren't quite accurate.
Yeah, and Radicek in his little blurb in the front was like, this is very accurate, and I agree with his description of how intense it was and what happened aboard that plane that day. Yeah. I mean, I paraphrased that because I read it a while ago, but that's basically exactly what he says.
Yeah, no, which really makes...
It's quite the endorsement.
I mean, I don't think any of the other books have that.
I can't think of one.
No, because Jeffrey Gray didn't even get to talk to Tina. Right?
That's right. He doesn't. He made an attempt and then it was like, nah.
She didn't want to be involved. Yeah. So I mean, I have to say he got everyone. And coming from an FBI agent perspective as well. So I do like it's almost like a just the facts kind of book. There's not a lot of,
Absolutely.
which I like. Like, here it is. This is what happened. It
Because
had
he
really
even
good
mentions a
facts.
couple of suspects and copycats towards the end, but
Yeah.
it's never about them at all. He
No.
seems to completely dismiss them.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. He goes into the money fund. And I did think, because I think, at least for me, I'm always, well, they did, before I get to that, he did get the drinks wrong. He said that he ordered
Okay,
two
I want to
bourbon
talk
and
about the
waters.
drinks
Yeah. Okay.
because that was something I had to reread in that book
Yeah.
because there's a in the later in the book they say something very interesting because there
Okay.
is always debate. Did Cooper get one drink or two? Was there some sort of
Hmm.
little spill thing? In the beginning of the book, it says he orders two bourbon and water
Yeah.
highballs,
Highballs.
not bourbon and soda.
No.
It's bourbon and water, and then they use the term highball with that. But then later in the book, when they wonder about Cooper's drinking glass,
Yes.
Tina said he put the two liquor bottles in the glass when he was done with it. And I just had this eureka moment where it's like, oh no, he didn't get two bourbon and sodas. He got a double. So
Yes.
two of the airplane liquor bottles poured into one glass. And then
Yes.
in that scenario, maybe there is some slight spill of one of those liquor bottles or something. So that answers
That is a eureka moment.
the two drink mystery thing, the spilling the drink thing, and his cup. So it's one drink. I'm still leaning towards bourbon and soda versus the
Yeah.
water, but it's one drink with two liquor bottles in it. So it's a
That's,
double, not
I didn't
two
put that
drinks.
together. I did not put that together.
Because
That's,
I read that and then I was like, oh, I made a note about bourbon and water, two bourbon and waters in the beginning of the book, but towards the end, it's he put the
yes.
two empty liquor bottles in the glass.
Yep.
And then
Um,
they mentioned that they fingerprinted that glass and the two
yeah.
liquor bottles, which I know I've read this book before, but now with the files out and everything so specific, like I haven't heard that they
No.
weren't able to pull prints from his glass. I think I've said in the show, like they weren't sure which glass was his because
Right. And that's
you
what
just
I'd
take
always
it and you
thought.
throw it back with the other glasses
Yeah. And
in the
they,
kitchen
well, they
area
found
or
the,
whatever it is.
so, but would I mean, obviously, I don't know why they wouldn't have found his prints on the glass. I mean, it's plastic.
But I mean, maybe it goes to show that he really did obscure his fingerprints with like
Yeah.
super glue or something like that,
Right. Well, would they
or was
have opened the
careful to
bottle?
wipe everything off. I don't know because there have been times where I've been on a plane where they opened the little liquor
Mm-hmm.
bottle and
Mm-hmm.
gave it to me with no cap. And there are times where they've just handed it to me. And same with beer. There's times where I've been given a
Yeah.
beer and it wasn't opened and I opened it. And then there's some times where they open it.
But
They're a
how
little
was it?
fast and loose in the air, I guess.
Yeah. But this is now. But like in 71, wasn't it supposed to be like more luxurious? We're going to wait on you. Like, was it like that then? Or do you think they would have just handed it to you and had you fix it yourself?
I don't know. Maybe they just poured the soda or water in there with some ice and then gave you
And
the liquor
handed it. Yeah.
bottles and
Yeah. But you're right. It does make you think maybe he did do something with his fingerprints, glue or something. Because I did read that because I did find it interesting because I did make that note too, because that's chapter 3. And they talk about the bourbon bottles and fingerprinting the glasses. Um, but yeah, I haven't seen it in the 302s either. There's a couple things in here that seem like fact that I haven't seen in a 302, or I've asked Ryan and he's like, no, that's not
but
about that
everything
because
else is so good that I almost just want to take his word for it on everything.
no, I know. Because like, they talk about the oxygen. Um,
Yep.
and how Tina thought that he had taken the flight before because they don't always keep the oxygen in the same compartment in every airplane. But Ryan was like, no, he had a picture of it. So I was kind of like, oh, that kind of burst my bubble a little bit. I thought maybe we were onto something.
Yeah, and he mentions that Cooper said something about there could be some radio signals that could interfere with the bomb.
Yes. Yeah, he did. Oh, and so like Tina's movie is called Not If You Understand, right?
Yes.
Which
At least that's the working title.
Yes, which I could not for the life of me figure out how they came up with that title until I reread Tusaw, because Cooper explains to Flo how the bomb worked and asked, "Do you understand?" So
I didn't even pick up on that.
I
I'm
wonder if
so mad at
that's
myself that I didn't pick up on that.
well, I didn't pick up on the two bourbon bottles. So I wonder if that's how they got the "Not If You Understand" title. Because I can't think of it. I mean, we'll reread some other things too, but I couldn't, for the life of me, every time that title came up, I was like, where in the world did they get this? But reading that, maybe that's how they got it.
Yeah, that's true, because their angle they're taking, from what I understand, is just whatever Tina said happened on the plane and her experience on the plane
Yeah. I
versus
wonder
it being
if,
about Cooper.
yeah, which is great. That's how it should be.
That's an interesting
That's,
angle.
yeah. I really hope it really is made and comes to fruition. That would be great.
And I hope it's good.
Yeah. Not like, oh, what's the DB Cooper one that goes into this? I think I watched 10 minutes of it because once it said it was this some like 18-year-old guy that committed the
I think it's
crime.
called I Am DB Cooper.
That's it.
It's Rodney something.
Yes, so disappointing.
So
So we need a good
ridiculous.
one. We need a good one. That would be good. But yeah, I mean, he's got great facts like the black box recorder self-erased every 30 minutes. But someone does have tapes of, I guess, the phone calls to Northwest.
Right. They would have been recording it on the other end.
Yeah.
But yeah, Captain Scott was like, take these notes down.
Yeah. That would be interesting to hear. But yeah, he does talk about the electronic signals and the bomb. And they did say, now, bomb, I'm 50-50. You ask me now, I think it's real. You ask me tomorrow, I'm going to think it's fake. But they did say the type of bomb he jumped with, paratroopers jump with because it's reliable and it doesn't explode on impact. So now I think maybe the bomb is real. Like that's. Are you still bomb real or bomb fake?
I lean way more towards bomb being real now.
Yeah. After reading this, I think maybe. I don't think it really matters ultimately, but after reading this and them talking about that, I agree, at least for right now.
The only thing about his hijacking account that I found a little goofy was his account of offering the stewardesses money.
Yeah.
Because in his account, nothing to Tina, he offers Alice and Flo the tip or the remaining
Yes.
money from the drink as a tip. They turn it down. Then he reaches into the bag, one
Mhm.
bundle for each of them, and then says something like, "Here, I don't need this."
Yes. Yeah.
Which that's such a weird thing to say, I don't need this.
Mm-hmm.
I just risked
So,
all of our lives for this.
right
I
here,
don't need it.
here, I don't need it. Take
And
it.
then it's like they walked out while he was still like holding it up.
Yeah.
That
So
just
do you,
read really weird.
yeah, it does make, well, this was written over 10 years after it happened.
Right.
So maybe the memory's a little off on that.
Yeah, and it could be just the way he assembled the story from the three stewardesses into one, that detail got a little
Mhm.
mixed up or jumbled.
Yeah. But I
But
mean,
that's me nitpicking to find
right.
something
Yeah.
that wasn't dead on accurate.
Yeah. They did say that Cooper wanted to leave exactly at 5 p.m. Is that, I don't
Well, I
remember
think
that.
when I read that, I thought that was like in their investigation, they thought that. Because I
Okay.
think there was talk about he maybe had wanted to jump real soon. That's why
Hmm.
he requested the aft stairs down. And I think that's one of those things where we'll never know unless we talk to
No.
Cooper himself.
Right. Which, yeah, because I mean, I guess if you have an accomplice, you definitely want to jump soon if they're going to meet up with you somewhere.
Meeting up with an accomplice is a real tough game when he didn't even give any flight instructions.
That's true. Unless, I mean,
Unless he knew that under that configuration they would have had to travel in
go
Victor
that
23.
way. But we're looking at it from 2025 perspective, right? We think, oh my gosh, without my cell phone, how am I going to find someone? But if you've lived your life never having a cell phone, don't you know how to find, like, wouldn't you know other ways to find people? Like, wouldn't have, you'd already have your own way. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, it would be get to a payphone, get to a public phone or something, and
Yeah. It wouldn't seem so outrageous and undoable without a cell phone because they never had one.
right.
So I don't know. So I'm not totally against an accomplice.
I'm not against an accomplice either, but it just adds more complexity. They don't know where he's
Yeah.
going to be. Plus, you have now another person involved in talking about, are they going to talk? Is there going to be a deathbed confession?
Yeah. But what's Johnston? Is it Joseph Johnston? He's the suspect number one. He's a perfect accomplice. Like he dies like the following April.
Yeah.
Like, it's perfect. He's in jail. Obviously, he's not going to loose lips it because, it's a capital crime. He's going to keep that to himself, and he probably wants some of the money. So that something like that makes me think, well, maybe there could have been an accomplice. It wouldn't have been just anyone.
Definitely could have been, but we don't know.
No, but he would be a perfect one if there were one. I would put my money on him. And there had not ever been, is it Tusaw's book that talks about that no, it was Gunther's book, why they picked the area, because there had never been a skyjacking in that part of the country before.
It's a long flight to Cuba from Seattle.
I know, right? They were just going to go somewhere pleasant.
Right.
we don't know exactly where. But yeah, I do have that note about Cooper offering the change and then also offering 2 packets of money. And they said that when the stewardesses went back to talk to him about, like, what's going on, he didn't have his sunglasses on.
Right. I did notice that also.
Yeah, which is interesting. So I wonder, you think that's...
Well, because then he also requests that the cabin lights be turned off after takeoff.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you don't want to be in the dark with sunglasses on also.
Yeah. So maybe.
Do you think that the sunglasses thing was partly to keep his eyes adjusted to the dark?
I think it's a really, like, I hadn't thought about that until I heard someone say that. And that's a really good idea. I hadn't thought about it that way. I mean, but I don't know how long, wouldn't your eyes adjust on the way down?
Yeah, even just turning the lights off in the plane and walking on the back stairs, real quick, your eyes are going to adjust.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe, I mean, eyes can be very distinctive.
Yeah, I think it was more for camouflage or to conceal his identity than it was to help with adjusting his eyes to...
Eyes can be very telling. A lot of expression sometimes through the eyes too. And look the hard time we're having now because we don't know what his eyes look like. I mean, from, your nose to your chin, you could be anyone with sunglasses on. So it was a smart move if that was the reason. But yeah.
He also says that the Seafirst in Seattle had 240,000. And I've always said 250.
Yes, I thought that's what that was. Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't really matter if they had 240 or 250. It's still
an odd number
that they had that and that he chose a number inside that.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It's just too many vortexy things. Like, how would he have known that?
I don't know.
But they do say 28-foot canopy in this one. An NB8 28-foot canopy as well, which is something, what did we say, 24, 26?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, it's like, I think it's a 24-footer and an NB6 now is...
Yeah. So they said NV8 and 28. But is this I'm glad I
He
take
also
notes.
says military and civilian sport.
He does. But do you think that's because um he had modified that other one? Remember the discussion, something about the
He put like padded straps on it versus
yeah,
the one that had come on it. And that very well could be like that's where the mix-up sort of originates. No, I put the luxury straps on.
right.
And that sort of language. But even then, that's still a military chute with just some extra padding on it.
Yeah, it's still going to look different than a civilian, right? At that time, I don't know what the parachute at that time would look like.
The para commander, whatever the one in the stories
Yeah,
mentioned.
you're right. Like, what color are they? Like the outside. I
I
know,
have no idea.
right. So I don't know, like, where that mix up could be. Like, are they green on the outside? Are they tan on the outside? Are they black?
The other interesting thing about parachutes is towards the end of the book, there's a weird paragraph that I had to read like 7 times where Len Emmerich gets $40 for the front chute that was cannibalized and gets
Yes.
the dummy chute back.
Okay, so it is this book. Okay, yes, which is interesting. Because that they don't have the dummy shoot, right? Yeah. Kasi was given $50 for his military shoot. And then yes, Lynn Emmerich was $40 for the chest shoot that Cooper destroyed and then gave him back the dummy shoot.
With the black X on it.
Yes.
Yeah,
That
that's really weird.
and they did mention no D rings
Yeah,
multiple times.
multiple times, no D rings.
Yeah. No, that was okay. Yeah, I do remember reading that. But they definitely, I mean, if Lynn Emmerich got the dummy back, I mean, they're giving back evidence. Would he
But then that
thought
means
twice about it?
we've been wrong about this the entire time that Cooper
Right.
either jumped with the dummy or threw the dummy out the back of the plane when he realized
That it was not useful.
that it was not useful. Not only could he not attach it, but it wasn't even going to work.
Right. No, I think I mean, that's a good thought because we do always think, where's the dummy chute? So, I mean, they were giving all of these parachutes back. Did they jump with any of them again afterwards?
I don't think so.
Well, one was cannibalized, but the one
'Cause that's like
front
the
chute.
Washington State Historical Society, or it
Yes.
was there.
So there were two back, two front. He jumped with the back. The other back is at Washington. What does the FBI have? The front?
The just the cannibalized dummy then? This is why I hate talking about parachutes. Parachutes and copycats.
Because it would make sense. I mean, they gave the stuff back. It would be sense if I mean, maybe they did give the dummy chute back.
He has to be wrong about that, right?
I mean, he was wrong about a couple other things. Maybe, it's been a while and he just kind of forgot. But I would think he would remember getting a dummy chute back.
Yeah. But then it would be like this collectible DB Cooper thing.
Back then, was it though? Like, what did they do with the chutes after they got them back? It wasn't until later that they donated it, right?
Yeah, it may have been jumped again. I don't know. We'd have checked the packing card.
Right? Like, exactly. So maybe it just wasn't, they just didn't think twice about it because it was just another skyjacking. They just had thrown some old parachutes out. Like, yeah, take these. Oh, okay, we got them back. No biggie. It wasn't
Yeah,
until
he was
later.
clear that he wanted to give him the worst stuff because he thought, I won't be getting these back.
Mm-hmm. So maybe he does. Maybe he does have them. We need to get Ryan on that. Or Chris
There's
Brower.
even something where he's like, oh yeah, I was so worried that I gave this inoperable one because I didn't know what it was. But I really did read that paragraph like 7 times.
Yes.
Because I was like,
it's page 60.
I must have read that wrong.
No, yes, I did. Yeah, every time I made a note. Yes, so page 60 is when he talks about that. So I think, maybe he did have the dummy. What happened? Where's Lynn Emmerich now? Obviously, he's probably not still with us.
Probably not.
But where did all of his stuff go?
I don't know. I want that dummy though.
I know. We track that down. Does he have family?
The FBI valued it at around $40. I'm willing to pay $50 for it right now.
That would be awesome to get the hands on.
Yeah, this was the
Like
dummy shoot that was given
yeah.
to DB Cooper.
The one that we've been looking for forever that we thought he had just chucked out the back of the plane. But no, I do remember reading that because I made notes and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, because $50 then, if $20 was 100, I mean, they compensated them pretty well for the parachutes. To us, it's like, oh, $50, $40. But back then, that's $200, maybe 250, 300.
Yeah, because I specifically remember Mark Meltzer saying that around that time you could go buy those military surplus rigs for between 50 and $75.
Yeah. So that maybe I think it would be interesting to look into that. I wonder if there are any FBI files that haven't been released that talk about that.
I don't know. I feel like in all the files it says that he jumped with it.
Mm-hmm. You think it's something that he just misremembered or just remembered better later?
I think he just misremembered it. There is also that thing about this case where people want to be involved in some way, shape, or form.
That's true. That is true. They want to insert themselves.
I don't remember if it was at CooperCon or somebody said it to me somewhere else, but someone was like, it really bothers me all this moving the drop zone south because I truly believe that DB Cooper landed in my hometown of Ariel. And it's like, oh, I see. You want this to be yours. And so him landing in Battleground makes it not yours because you're all about Ariel.
That's true.
Okay.
That is true. Maybe he wanted to just insert himself back in, 12 years later, 13 years later, back into the story. Because now because it was written after the money find. That's when he started writing the book. So it all just hit the headlines again. So maybe he was like, oh yeah, I was there. I have this. So you're right. Maybe he did just want to insert himself. Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's already involved in it in a small way, but.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like Cossey's name is thrown around way more than Lynn Emmerich.
Oh yeah, he liked the attention.
Yeah. So I feel like maybe that was his kind of way of being like, making sure his name got in there. If that was why he said that. If that was why he said that. To make sure. We didn't always just talk about Earl Cossey. Maybe.
Earl Cossey turned out to be not very reliable, or he loved to tell the story a lot and the story changed. And
yeah.
Because in every one of these books, it seems like it's a different story from Cossey.
It is.
And they all talk to him.
Yes, they do. They really do. You're right. He does change the story every single time. But he doesn't with the FBI, right? He keeps everything straight with the FBI.
No, I think there's even like an FBI file where it's like, okay, his story seems to have changed and maybe we shouldn't be asking him anymore about this, but they still used him as sort of a parachute expert.
Okay. Yeah. It would be nice to have been able to talk to him.
Man, I would have loved to have him on the show. That would have been great.
That would have been awesome. But it was interesting, when they were talking about building the profile on him. And I didn't think of it this way. And I know we talk about like flap setting at 15 and that he didn't order speed in terms of miles per hour, but in degree flaps. And that was probably because he couldn't see the gauges in the cockpit. And I didn't really think about it that way. I guess that was something I had just kind of glazed over and hadn't really put a whole lot of thought about. But I hadn't thought about it. That was a good realization.
Yeah, it was interesting how they laid out his flight instructions in this
Hmm.
book.
Hmm. Yeah, it was. I like that because that's when they're talking about how he knew so much about the plane, how long it would take to refuel, that he could take off with the aft stairs down. Um, he knew McCord was only 20 minutes. Is it 20 minutes or 20 miles? Because you hear both.
I would say 20 miles, which at the time maybe it was 20
20
minutes.
minutes. Depending on how fast you were going. But no, I do. I like the facts. I like how he lays it out. You don't need a lot of extra fluff that's just going to distract you from the truth.
Yeah, he does a really good job. I mean, I've just read a description of this hijacking just like for the fifth time in a row, and it it's the best one.
Yeah, I do. I really did like it. And then the fisherman tipper that they go out looking for the money. Um, he seems very interesting. Um, and then but don't they have a picture of him in here? Tipper, the fisherman. Yeah,
Is there a picture of him? I don't remember. There are quite a few pictures in this book.
there are. Yeah,
Oh, that's right. It's
he's
so
great.
funny how often the same pictures are used in every single book.
Yes.
There's
Oh,
that
yeah.
one picture of like the ground search organization in Woodland where it's like the
Yes.
sheriff pointing. It's in every book.
Yes. Um, but I think it's really good. I mean, they've got Brian Ingram in here. They've got pictures of the money. Um, so I don't think that's ever been in before. And the whole showing how Brian found the money, how he was kind of swiping across the sand. No, I did. I mean, it's great. Like I don't think anything had to do with when they were out there. What was it? The barging? What were they doing with the
They're raking
sand?
the
Yeah.
the river right in front of Tina Bar. The Tina Bar chapter in that book. Okay. First, chapter structure in that book is a little bit goofy. There's a
Yes.
chapter that's like 75 pages, and then the next one is 5 pages, and then
Yeah.
the next one is 38.
Yeah.
There's like 7 chapters total or something weird like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, 9 chapters. Is it 9? No, 10, because 10 is the reward for the money. So I guess 9 chapters, because 9 talks about um the spirit lives on, and all the
Right, his sort of rundown, and then 10 is the
yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
But his chapter on Tina Bar,
Mhm.
having just read Skyjack, Jeffrey Gray got all of his Tina Bar information from the Tusaw book.
Absolutely.
Absolutely did. The facts are the same. They read very similar. I'm not saying
Yes.
like he plagiarized him at all, but if Jeffrey Gray got his research on Tina Bar from a book, it was Tusaw's book.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. What I do find interesting, because what is it? I don't know. I always call it the Jeffries parachute, the parachute that they found under the bridge like a day or two after the hijacking.
Right. Over near like
So,
Vancouver Island area, kind of.
yes. So when we were at CooperCon, Tessa was kind enough to invite us out on the boat. So we got to see where that was. And what's interesting is this picture right here looks like exactly where the parachute was found, with the barge up under that trestle, which it looks exactly like where it was. So it's like, that's a little vortexy. But I like the Jeffrey shoot. I think it could be.
Not in any of these books.
No, well, they didn't take it serious at the
I mean,
time.
it doesn't seem like they were interested in any of the parachute finds.
No. Well, I don't think any of, because they even found one during the dredging, but it was what kind of, it wasn't even like a,
It was a drag chute for planes or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah, it wasn't like it was like anything useful. No, well, because it wasn't in their search area. So I don't think they just paid much attention to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they took a look at it and it's like outside the search area and probably not the right chute. So then it's like, okay.
I don't know.
Because we
The
want to get
Jeffries one
excited
is
every time there's
white.
a parachute find, but
I know. I know. But that one seems, I'm going to hold out hope for that one, for the Jeffries parachute. I'm going to keep that one in my fictional story in my head of what happened.
yeah, it's in the wrong area. It's not the right chute.
But
But
yeah, I
yeah, it
mean,
was interesting. I don't think I remember that he hired a guy to rake the Columbia
mhm.
in front of Tina Bar.
Yeah, because that was Tipper, right? Tipper is the one that raped.
And then Tipper is also like, and this is a definite thing that happens in DB Cooper. He's like, oh yeah, I cast a line out there a couple weeks ago and it got snagged on something. And I think that was DB Cooper's body.
Yes.
It's like, all right, bro, come on.
Yes, like yeah, inserting himself into the story. Inserting himself.
Right, because then he can forever say, oh yeah, I got a line snagged on DB Cooper's body once.
Exactly. Yeah, he fished all year. Yeah, Tipper, because he was Santa during the Christmas season at the local department store. Tipper was. He looks like a Santa. But what do you think about the Tina Bar? How do you think the money got there?
I don't know. For Tusa, it seemed like his investigation took him to Cooper landed in the Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the book goes. Spoiler alert. Um, and so I think, he has that chapter sort of on like what might have happened.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of him saying like, I don't know, but so and so Soderlund moved the drop zone to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Columbia and talking to him and he did the math and that's where Cooper landed. And so this is how the money got to Tina Bar and then the dredge scenario.
Which doesn't, yeah. I mean, I would take the drop zone close to the Columbia, but I wouldn't take it in the Columbia.
Well, he even mentions what I always bring up is what statistically are the odds of landing in the Columbia
Yeah.
in along this whole drop zone. He's like, it's very minuscule, but
Yeah.
that's the
I
only
mean,
place I can see this evidence taking it.
but then he also didn't know about the diatoms yet.
He did not, because he said the money bounced along the bottom of the
Mm-hmm.
Columbia, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how
So
the edges got worn off. And
he didn't have the current science that we have. But I mean, I guess for what he
and
was
he's not
going on,
selling
it
that as
makes
a hundred
sense.
percent.
No, no. I mean, he's just kind of putting some facts together, which I'm without knowing about the diatoms, it makes sense. Like, yeah, that could have totally happened. But I do like when he talks about how the pilots every year at their annual reunion dinner celebrate Cooper.
The chase plane pilots.
Yes. And how Tussaud spoke there as well on the 11th anniversary.
On the 11th anniversary, and he said something like, I looked around and I know most of these men hadn't been born when this happened.
Yes. And he talks about the annual party at Ariel. Is that Cooper Days or was that before Cooper Days?
Yeah, that's DB Cooper days
Okay.
at the Ariel
Okay.
store.
All right.
And
That would
that
have
had
been
been
fun.
that started basically probably 1972 was the first
Oh,
one.
wow. That's crazy. I didn't know it went back that far.
And then it probably went until 16 or 17 when Donna passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
then the
then we moved
county
to
was
the,
just like, no, we're not letting you guys run a business in this shanty anymore.
I bet that would have been great. Um, I've always wanted to go out that way and see it just to see where it was. Because it's right there at Lake Merwin, right? Or
Yeah.
at the Merwin Dam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people that were working out at the dam used to go there for lunch.
That's awesome. But yeah, no, I mean, Tucson did a great book. He lays out the facts. A couple of things are wrong that I wish were right. Now I'm really wondering about the dummy chute, hoping that it's still out there
Yeah,
in
I'm not
somebody's
sure
garage.
about that.
Yeah. But you know what? I think when talking about the two bourbons That I had never thought about that. That is such a good point. That
And
he got a
it
double.
explains the difference between one drink and two drinks.
Yes,
No, it's one drink, but it's a double.
it's a double. I think you're on to something. I did not put that together. So if he spilt it, you think it was the bottles he spilt or the cup that he spilt?
Oh, I'm not sure about that, but
Yeah.
if he is pouring two separate little liquor bottles into his cup and maybe he spilled a little bit of one of them or something,
Yeah.
and then that can explain that spill. But the spill might have never happened
Yeah. No, that's
because it's
true.
not in every account.
No.
And also, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
No, it's not going to help us solve anything.
No, it's not like, okay, we can confirm 100% he spilled part of his drink.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now what?
So he was a little bit clumsy. No, I do. I think it's a must read for people for sure. It's got a lot of
Absolutely
great
must read.
facts. And I'm trying to think, did I have anything else written
Well,
in here?
we've got to talk about the deal he makes you at the end of the
Oh,
book.
you're right. That's true. $10,000, right?
Yes,
If
so
you
he's
find
putting
any of
up,
them.
I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. And if you find DB Cooper or one of the bills,
Yeah.
he will give you $10,000. And it seems like that offer doesn't expire. So maybe the estate of Tusa has
That's
$10,000
$10,000
in an
waiting.
account. So I need to get after this. I'm going to be the one to claim that reward.
And so and he has, how many bills did he get though from the FBI? Do we know how many he picked? Was it 10 or something? He got to pick so many as his payment.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I don't remember the exact number. Maybe it was 10 bills or
Yeah. Like he got to pick maybe first. He picked
yeah,
all
I
the
didn't.
good ones.
Was that in the book? I
If we
didn't make a
could
note
get,
on that.
no, it's not in the book. I don't think it's in the book. I don't think even him representing the Ingrams is in the book. At least
Yeah, I don't remember that being in there.
No, I don't think it is. But wouldn't you love to get your hands on his 20s that he picked?
Yeah, or even if he, again, has a bunch of notes from putting this book together.
That would be amazing.
I
Who
would
got all of
love
his
to look
stuff?
over that.
His estate. I mean, we know where his parachute is, but where's the rest of his
Tusa have
estate?
kids?
I don't think
I
so.
don't think we figured the answer to that.
I think somebody's got to have his
All right,
estate.
here's me reading somebody's obituary again. He didn't have kids, it sounds like.
Okay, so who's got
He is
his
survived
estate?
by his two loving sisters. Uncle Dick will be missed by many nieces, nephews, and dear friends.
No.
As hobbies, he patented a periscope and searched for skyjacker DB Cooper.
That's fantastic. That's a great obituary.
In the Oregonian, October 27th, 2009.
Was that who was that other? Was that the Oregonian that was titled It Was a Dark and Stormy Night? Is that the name of the Oregonian title? It was a dark and stormy night. The story.
Sounds about right.
I think so. Which cracks me up because that is also Snoopy's only novel is also called It's a Dark and Stormy Night, which I think also came out in 71. It's like 2 paragraphs, but it starts, It was a dark and stormy night in 1971. So when I think that's what it was, because it rung a bell when I read it, because it reminded me of Snoopy, oddly enough. So I wonder then who's got his estate?
We need
Somebody's
to figure that
got
out.
it. Yeah, Ryan. I'm sure Ryan knows.
If he was Uncle Dick, sounds like his sister or his
Yeah.
sisters had kids.
Mm-hmm. So maybe they have it. We need to reach out and ask Ryan what he knows. He's got the
We
parachute.
need to go over those notes.
Wouldn't it be so sad if those 20s were just like thrown away?
I can't imagine they were. I
No.
can't imagine it.
Do you think
Because
they're
if
just
they
like
knew
holding
enough
on
that
to them?
they wrote his hobby was chasing DB Cooper,
Then they know.
They know
Yeah.
he's got those bills.
They're somewhere. I wonder if they're in like a safety deposit box. along with what was the magazine Dwayne Weber had in his safety deposit
Soldier of
box?
Fortune.
Yeah, maybe it's in there with the Soldier of Fortune.
That would be so great.
Yeah. I'm sure Joe, she probably knows exactly where they are. If we could ask her. Yeah. It would be because, and also the insurance company, they got a couple of them as well.
I
Wasn't it?
think so. I think Nikki was trying to track that down
Yeah.
recently.
Mm.
But it's,
They had
yeah,
quite a few.
speaking of Globe Indemnity, like that's mentioned in Gunther's book 900 times.
Yes.
It's like, okay, I get the point. I get the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he was secretly trying to tell us something. Or not, but you're right. He does mention that a lot in here. That was the insurance company, right? I can't remember.
Yeah,
It's
and
hard
then,
when like you read so much, like it all runs together.
oh yeah.
Yeah. Which is why like I have to like on my notes, I have what page I found it on. I've now started writing in 4 different color inks. So
Which color is for speculation and which color is for opinion, which one's for fact?
it's actually just so that all of my paragraphs don't run together. So I'll write one
Okay.
paragraph in blue, one in green, one in red, one in purple, just so it doesn't all run together. And I know that each of these is a separate thought. So that's because they do, it all runs together after a while. I even reread this earlier today to kind of be like, okay.
Yeah, especially when we're hammering books out like this on this.
I know. I said what I was going to read 6 books this year, and I've already read 5. I am ahead of the game.
I've been telling everyone I'm going to read 52 this year, and I'm already at 5. So
yeah,
I'm ahead of
you've
schedule.
got it. Yeah, I mean, pretty soon we'll be getting our our little Pizza Hut personal pan pizza for reading our books.
I deserve it.
Yeah, you do. If you
it.
do 52, you definitely. That's a book a week.
Yeah, that's
I
not
mean,
unmanageable. The only thing
no.
it's going to be bad is I'm going to get behind, and
Oh
then
yeah.
be
Once you're
like,
behind, you're done.
around Thanksgiving, someone's going to ask me, how's that 52 book thing going? Oh, it's fine. I just have to read 47 more, and then I'm there.
Well, I mean, some of these have been easy reads. Like, so these have been doable. Like, I'll read one in a weekend, and then I'll read the other one like within the next 3 days. So those things are like that's easy because they're doable sizes. But like Bruce Smith's book, that's a whole different ball game right here.
Yeah, there's a lot to that.
Yeah, but even Andrade's book and Himmelsbach's book, they're not. You'll be able to get through these.
Yeah, you can knock that out in 2 days.
And I mean, ha ha ha, that's not a big book.
All right, before we get into discussing where we're headed next,
where we're going next, how we're going to grade this.
Give Tusaw a grade. It's absolutely required reading.
Yes, absolutely.
It holds up so well.
It does. I really enjoy. It's up there with Jeffrey Gray. Yeah. I really enjoyed rereading it. It was the first one I reread. It was the first one of the 2. It's the first one I went for. And I love my
Gunther first because I was like, Gunther's a little longer, so I'll get that one done. And Tusaw's lighter, so if I'm cutting this close, that I blast for Tusaw pretty quick.
Yeah, no, I mean, you have to read it. Absolutely. And my first sentence about this is it lays out the facts. Like, that's what I like about it. It tells you the facts in a very easily readable book.
Yeah, because Jeffrey Gray's book is 20 years later, 84 to 11, 25 years later.
And it still holds.
Yeah.
And this one's much older than that.
Jeffrey Gray's book is a better read, and it's more of an adventure.
Yes, because he takes you along with him as they search for the money and his relationship with Joe. Like, you definitely go along.
Because there isn't anything in Tusaw's book about, then I went and visited this person at this place. There's nothing about him. He's just like, I interviewed all these people, and here's all the information I got, and I put it together, and here it is.
Yeah.
It's
which
not
I
like
do love
like
that.
Blevins has. It's just like half of it is
Yeah.
about him and his
Oh,
adventure.
yes.
But in this one, there's no adventure. There's no personal information about Tusaw.
No.
There's, I mean, very little about his own thought. It's just that sort of that one chapter where he's like, based on the evidence I found, this is
Hmm.
kind of what I think might have happened and how this money got to Tina Barr. But even then, he finishes by saying, "If you find anything, I'll give you 10 grand."
Yeah. No, I think you can definitely tell that he's FBI or was FBI. Like I
Yes.
think you can tell like he's used to getting a report together. These are the facts. Here it is. Like, and I think that's what I appreciate about the book. But you're right. Jeffrey Gray's, I mean, it's great. You go along the adventure. But if you want something with facts, this is it.
Right. And if you want to read, this was where the case was in 1984.
Hmm.
And we didn't have the FBI files then. We do now. And boy, is Tusaw right about basically everything.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
spoke to all the primary people. By the time Jeffrey Gray
Yeah.
shows up, many of those people had died.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
Jeffrey
was
Gray is
very
using
impressed.
information he got from Himmelsbach and Tusaw.
And Tucson. Yeah. I haven't read Himmelsbach's book yet. So it'll be interesting to see after reading that one how much Gray pulled out of it from the
Right. Or
Himmelsbach
how it
book.
compares to Tusaw.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be because you're right. I mean, the whole Tina Barr chapter.
It's so
Definitely.
similar. Like it's not. I'm not saying it's plagiarized at all. I'm just saying
No,
that
no.
the Tina Barr narrative
He
in
referenced it
Tusaw's book
heavily.
is the same narrative in
Yeah.
Jeffrey Gray's,
Yeah.
which Jeffrey Gray had more information. He had some access to the FBI files. He had access to Larry Carr. So it really is like Tusaw's just right about it, and
Yeah.
Jeffrey Gray used
Just
that information, that account in his recreation of it for his book.
yeah. Could you imagine though? Because did you watch with Ryan and Larry Carr talking about Jeffrey Gray and how he had like handed him the boxes? How many days was he there? And he could copy down anything he wanted. Like how awesome would
Right,
that
like
have
he
been?
couldn't take a picture, but he could write notes down.
Yeah, that had to have been amazing, overwhelming and amazing. And he got like they were not redacted.
I would have felt like the coolest kid ever in there going
Right?
through those files.
I really wish you could get him on and like get his take on
I
that.
will get Jeffrey Gray on the show. He says he's going to do it, but he's just very slippery when you try to hold him
Mm.
down in front of a mic.
Well, he's been out. He's been out for a while.
Yeah. Yeah,
His
Ryan's talked to him pretty recently. I talked to him probably a year and a half ago, something like that.
Yeah. He hasn't been in any of the, well, he was on the Netflix special, right? But that's a little bit older now.
Yes, he was. And I remember they said like they had to fly to Mexico to do that one
Did
and use a
they?
different crew because he was like, "Oh yeah, that's in August. Yeah, sure, I'll do it." And then that kind of rolls around. He's like, "Oh no, I can't do it." And they wanted to talk to him so bad that they just got a crew and went to
Wow.
Mexico and got him real quick.
That's awesome. That's awesome to know.
Because I remember
Yeah.
them telling me like that's gonna be the most expensive part of the movie because we had to hire a separate crew to do that.
Oh, wow. Well, I hope you get him on. It would be really great to hear his, like, what he saw, what he thought was. Because do you think he held anything back
No,
from that
definitely
book,
not.
knowing?
Definitely not.
That's true. Because, he did name drop a lot. He did spill a lot of tea. But I didn't know if
Yeah, he
maybe
pulled
there was something
random names from the file and just
he
printed
did.
them.
Yeah,
And I would have thought that maybe those names were made up if it weren't for Fred Catalano, which is a name you would never guess. If I,
exactly.
hey, I need you to make up 100 fake names. Not one of them is going to be Fred Catalano.
No, no, absolutely not. Right? Yeah, it would be cool. I hope you get him on. But yeah, Tucson's book, absolutely. How many parachutes?
I'm giving it 4 parachutes.
Absolutely. Absolutely four. Too bad we don't have five.
The facts are legit.
Yeah.
It holds up. It's a good story. For a self-published book, it's a really good first book.
Yeah.
And his only one apparently, unless I
Yeah.
missed something online, but
Yeah, I'll definitely have to look into it, see if he did write anymore. Because if they said he was a treasure hunter, kind of, I
Well,
wonder what
I
else he
think
looked
it was in the
into.
very beginning, like about the author or about the book. He's like, now I'm retired and I'm writing mystery
Yeah.
novels.
And then that's how he got into it.
Yeah, in 81, he changed careers to his present one, investigating and writing about interesting events. He
Yes.
states that for a story to qualify, it must offer a challenge and promise of adventure.
So I guess he didn't find anything else as adventurous after this.
Yes, so. Nothing else qualified.
I could see that. I mean, I don't know of anything else that could hold up to this. And during those times, right? For an adventure. I
Definitely
don't
not
know
for
what
an
else was.
adventure.
Yeah. Because I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot else. There wasn't like
Doesn't
Forrest
seem like the
Fenn's
guy that's going
money.
to write about Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster.
No. Yeah. Like he's going to definitely go for something factual based. So I don't think there was much else out there, especially after this. I don't know. You can't really top it. He went out on a high.
He did. One was so good that was all he needed.
That's all he needed.
All right,
No,
it's
I
a
did
must
enjoy.
read. It's four
It is a must
parachutes.
read. Four parachutes. Full,
Where are we
four
going
fully
next?
functional.
So we did the Skip Porteous chapter in our book
Yes.
review with Skyjack and Into the Blast.
Yes.
We we did Max Gunther and Tusaw, which what do
Mhm.
they have in common? I don't think they really had anything in common.
The year. I mean, they were close in year. Didn't they? Well, no, Skyjack and Tucson both took 4 years to write.
Oh yeah.
Um, they both took 4 years, but they're not in the same. Um, I don't know. I think the only thing is that they came out around the same time.
Yeah,
Gunther
yeah,
and
I think that's the only thing they have in common as well.
yeah, I mean,
One is all
maybe
facts, one is pure speculation.
yeah. I don't. They both have tan on their cover. They both say DB Cooper. But other than that, I don't think they have much in common.
What the hell is up with the color choice for Max Gunther's book?
I don't
It's such a
know.
weird shade of like yellow
Manila.
tan.
Yeah, like a manila envelope. It's not appealing. Like if I saw this in a bookstore, I wouldn't pick it up. But maybe, I mean, the 70s colors were a little different. So maybe that was kind of what was in style. He did get the parachute right. It was a round parachute. At least he
That's
got that
true.
right. You know. But you're right. I don't know what he was thinking. Who did the who did the cover for it? It doesn't say who designed the cover. It says who designed Tusaw's cover in here. Tom Watson of San Francisco designed D.B. Cooper, Dead or Alive. I don't know. Maybe he designed his own cover. But you're right. The color is it's probably one of my least favorite of all the Cooper book covers.
Yeah, it's a really odd choice. I mean, it stands out from a distance. It's got big, gigantic letters, but
Yeah,
if
and
you're
I
going to
mean,
leave that
even
much dead space, why choose the worst color of all time?
right. And I mean, are all the books underneath black? Like, is your book underneath black?
Yes, but I also have a paperback.
That's right, you do. Is the paperback the same color? I'm super jealous.
And I noticed reading Gunther that there was one sentence that got repeated twice in a row.
Yes, there was. Where was it? But I do
And
even because I kept reading it like, am I missing something? Like, is this supposed to be written
right, I
twice?
thought I just read the same line again, but
Yeah,
no, it says that twice.
yeah.
And I opened the paperback to the same page, and that's been fixed.
Oh,
But I'm
that
not
is
sure
interesting.
if I could reread the original and the paperback if I would find anything else because it was It wasn't a
Yeah.
word that was repeated twice. It was a
It
full
was a
sentence.
full sentence.
Something like
Yes.
she went outside into the cold, blistery air or something like that. And then it's like
Yes.
she went outside into the cold, blistery air. What?
Yeah,
Did I just?
definitely. I do remember that reading that because I was like, is this supposed to be this way? Why are we repeating this? But yes, you're right.
But
It does repeat a sentence.
I have three hardbacks and one paperback, and I have seen 85 copies of the Max Gunther book with my eyeballs,
Hmm.
and I've never seen another paperback. Because when I got it, I didn't even know that I was getting a paperback. It was for a while I was just buying, oh, Max
Yeah.
Gunther popped up. It's only $20. I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah. So did you get that like off of eBay or Amazon?
Thrift books.
Ah, yeah.
Because my wife gets like a free credit. And so if we have a free credit in there, I'll
Hmm.
just like, oh, what am
What
I
are
gonna
they?
get before my
Yeah.
wife can use this credit?
Yeah. I mean, I think just looking at the stack that I have here, there's four from thrift books. Um, the still missing one, the free fall, DB Cooper cased. It's the George Nuttall book, and then this hard copy one, the DB Cooper hijacking by Olson. That's a that's actually a library book. Actually, that was in the discard pile.
Oh,
I know. I haven't read it yet. It was one of the new ones that came not too long ago. But yeah, Thrift Books has a lot of them, a lot of good ones. But I didn't know like you could get credits. I've just been buying them through Amazon.
no, you order so many books and you get a free book credit.
Okay. I'm gonna have to check. There's still a few on my list I'm trying to get my hands on. So that maybe I'll have to watch. What is the obviously the real McCoy? Just because I want to read it. And then what's the night? It's something night.
A Dark Knight
Yes.
by Pat Dunbar.
Yes. I had it in my cart and someone bought it out of my cart before I could hit purchase. Because
Too slow on the draw.
I bought that and I think Crosswinds and the Skyjacker were all like one purchase. And before I could hit purchase, that book was unavailable. And I was like, who bought that book? I know I have to know them.
When I bought Crosswinds, I immediately started reading it, and it's so boring.
Is it
And
really?
and I
Oh,
was like, I don't have to read this. Like,
yeah.
why am
There's
I
too many
doing
good
this to
books.
myself? This isn't going to solve the case. This is about Najib Halabi, who likely has absolutely nothing to do with this. I
Right.
just got it because it's a Vortex name and a Vortex
Yes.
book.
Yes. No, and that's the thing. I haven't read that. It's a quite a sizable book.
It is.
That's the one I have the signed copy from his. That was my surprise one. Like you got the surprise
Yeah,
signed copy. I got the surprise signed copy of this.
I'm jealous mine's not signed.
But you have so many good ones that are signed. Your two's all signed. Mine's not. I don't know. You're right. It does kind of look like a boring book, just flipping through it. Maybe it'll be something when I've read everything else. I'll come back around and read it. But if it doesn't really deal too much with the case, I don't know. But which ones are we going to read next?
Which
What do you
ones
think?
are we reading next? Is there a theme, or are we just going to pick two more?
Maybe just pick two more, right?
We could do. There's Marty's book.
Mm-hmm.
There's Ha Ha Ha, which I have
Okay.
not ever read cover to cover.
I have not either. I just flipped through it when it came in the mail. So I have not read it either. There's Himmelsbach, his book, which I have not read yet.
You know what? Let's do Himmelsbach and Marty.
Okay. These two?
Those two,
No, I think
yes.
that's good.
Because then we have he survived the jump and he died in the jump.
That's true. Okay, does that what Himmelsbach says? Spoiler
I
alert.
think he, towards the end, was probably more like, like he might have survived, but I think he wanted him to have died in the jump.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, you don't want anyone to get away. Like that's hard. I mean, he's got a good cover too. Yeah, no, I think these will be good together because I feel like if we do Bruce's book, that's like its own pod. Like that's its own. That's a book.
Yeah,
It took me a while to get through it. Yeah, oh yeah. And I mean, I can't remember how long it took me to read it the first time around. But it is a good book. I do like it. Okay, yep. So we'll do Andrade and Himmelsbach. Sounds like a plan. And then I'm excited to read Finding D.B. Cooper again because it's been a long time since I've read that one too.
It has been a very long time since I've read both of these books. Mm-hmm. At least 5 years, definitely, for both of them.
Mine's probably been a couple years.
I just did this other podcast. I think it was called The Secret Society of Strangers. It's a very small show. But because I'm hammering these books right now, like my Cooper knowledge is so on point. It's so sharp right now.
Don't you feel like, I mean, yeah. Well, because if I'm not reading in the car, usually it's either your podcast or Ryan's podcast rolling. So it's always like reminding me, which I don't know if that's a hindrance or a plus, because then I don't know if I'm getting my facts wrong when I'm thinking about like a certain book. That's why I think I write so much down on these, because I'm like, oh, I don't want to get that wrong because I just listened to a whole interview with, such and such person.
Yes, to go against what I just said about how I'm so sharp in the case right now, there is that, which book was that in? And am I mixing up different storylines?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like with the Tussaud versus the Gunther book, like I remember them talking about paying for those parachutes, but I couldn't remember which book it was in. And I didn't realize, I guess, I don't know if this is true or not, but the reward that they gave Brian and his family. Like Northwest Airlines gave him $500. The Oregon Journal gave him $250. And then they said a collector offered him $1,000 for one bill. That was in the Tussaud book. I don't know how accurate all of that is.
Yeah, I remember reading that and not being sure about any of that.
No, it doesn't. I don't think I've ever heard that anywhere else.
And those are weird numbers for a reward for something.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I hope we get Brian to come this year to DB CooperCon, because it would be nice to hear from him how everything went.
Yeah, and discuss the Cooper curse.
Yeah. I know. Let's just not all fall into the vortex.
Too late.
Right? We're in. Awesome. Yeah, so that's what we'll do. Himmelsbach and Andrade. Yeah, I'm excited to read. That's going to be a good one.
And both of these are pretty light too. So
yeah,
that's good.
Have you've read Himmelsbach already?
Yes, but it was quite a long time ago.
Yeah, I got it maybe over the summer last year, but I don't remember which one I was reading at the time. So I just kind of like shelved it. Maybe it was because I was reading Jude's book and John's book. I was going through those, I think, when it came in the mail. So I just kind of put it on the shelf and didn't get back around to it, because that's about the time I was reading those. So I'm excited to read that one.
All right. And then after Marty and Himmelsbach, we should probably do two Suspect books. Because we really haven't, I mean, Into the Blast is a Kenny Christensen book, but it follows the Skyjack storyline.
It's a Skip Porteous book.
Yeah, it's a Skip Porteous book.
Yeah, I've got all of mine. I'm such a nerd. I separate mine based on suspect versus fiction versus nonfiction versus outside case books. So I have all my suspect books right here. So yeah, I mean, we could easily do any of these except
that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That episode should be coming out soon. Or I guess by the time you listen to this, that episode I have with James Lane,
Yeah.
James Lane will be out.
James Lane. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, I mean, Paratrooper of Fortune is great. I love the one
Paratrooper
about
Fortune is great. I read
Barb.
Where Was Skip so recently that I don't really want to do that one.
Yeah, that one. I can't wait for Who Was Skip.
Maybe we could
But yeah,
do,
I mean,
I don't know. We'll think about it. Maybe Braden
yeah,
and
we've
Barb
got
or something.
time. Yeah, we've got time. Once we get through these two, then we've got time to go through those. Yeah, because we have Rollins' book.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good
Somehow,
one too.
I ended up with 2 copies of this one. Do you have this one?
I do have that one.
Okay, I've got 2 copies. So if anyone wanted a,
Is that one Donna Perry or something like that?
Carol Kim.
Carol Kim. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's tiny. It's like almost like a children's book version, but somehow I ended up with 2 copies of it. I'll give it away. But yeah, okay, perfect. And then at that, I will have met my goal of 6 books for this year.
Oh yeah. If you get after it starting right now, you'll be able to do that by the end of the month.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because
Oh yeah, there's 31 days in January. Piece of cake.
Yeah. Well, wait, what's this? I don't know which one I'm going to start with though. I might start with Marty's book first, since I've read it before. But by the end of the weekend, definitely have one of these done. Maybe by the end of the week, I'll have one and then finish the other one at the end of the weekend. Because it just takes a little time to make the notes. I think I'm going to need a new notebook.
Yeah, I've been bringing my book with me to work, so I've been making notes in my phone, and then 6 o'clock today I came down and I got to transfer all my notes to paper because I don't want to be looking at my phone. Oh yeah, and then I also thought this.
Yeah. No, that's why I was like, this time I'm keeping the ink colors different so that I know what's going on. But yeah, it's so funny because I'll bring my books to work and people will be like, oh, is that another DB Cooper book? And I'll be like, yeah, it is. You want to know about it? And then they just walk away. They really want it, but they're very supportive.
Unless
they don't want to come
listen to you talk about it.
That's true. Like they listen for like maybe 2 minutes, and then you see the glaze in the eye, and then you just like cut it short and walk away. I still have yet to get one to maybe want to come to CooperCon.
What I love is someone will be like, "Oh yeah, Darren, he's been doing this podcast about DB Cooper for like 6 years," and then they're like, "Who's DB Cooper?" And then I'll give a brief explanation, and then like, okay, moving on. And it's like no questions that I'm involved in this weird, obscure thing for years, and I've met everyone, and I've traveled for it, I've done these interviews. No question, no follow up, no curiosity at all. Okay.
No, it did pique a couple people's interest when I came back and was like talking about the uranium and stuff on the tie. Then people did start like really kind of being like, what was on it? You didn't say that. Now, what else? I did get a couple questions about that, but then that was it.
Right.
They just wanted to know about what was on the tie, what elements were on the tie. That was it. Once you said something uranium radioactive, then they were like, oh, you didn't say that. What? Tell me about that. But then after that, so 5 minutes, I got at least a good 5-minute conversation about it.
Yep. Sounds about right.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. So that's good. That's what we'll do.
All right.
I'm excited.
Well, we'll check in next time and we'll discuss Andrade and Himmelsbach's books on the case.
Sounds like a plan. I like it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nicole. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me again.
You can find Nicole on the DB Cooper Mystery Group on Facebook or catch her here for the next episode of our book review series. Do you have family secrets that may help solve the case? Questions, comments, hit us up. You can find us on Instagram or Twitter or email us directly, dbcooperpodcast@gmail.com. Links to all that in the show notes. Thank you to Nicole Legg for helping me meet my lofty goal of reading 52 books this year. Thank you to Russell Colbert for helping me meet my initial goal of doing 20 episodes of this show. Thank you to Darren Ossadich for playing us out. I'm Darren Schaefer, and thank you for listening to the Cooper Vortex.
Here's a story we all know about a man many years ago. Hijacked a plane, so we were told. Then he jumped into the cold. Lights a bourbon and a cigarette. He's in the air, the stage is set. Polite and kind, the people say it's time to make his getaway. This is how the story goes about the money and the man. D.B. Cooper, they call me now. Catch me if you can. Rolled up in his Colbert tie. He's got enough to change his life. Where he landed, no one knows. But from his tale, a legend grows. Was a cold, dark, rainy night. As he walked, he saw light. Held his cash close to his side. Just needs to catch a ride. This is how the story goes about the money and the man. D.B. Cooper, they call me now. Catch me if you can. Down to the bone. Look for a place to use the phone. Little cafe outside of town. He walked in, he just sat down. Met a man with a cowboy hat. He told a friend right where he's at. Into the night he disappeared. And from that night a legend reared. This is how the story goes about the money and the man. D.B. Cooper, they call me now. Catch me if you can. 40 years, the secret's out. The story has been told. D.B. Cooper's done running now. He was 8